Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November 21st Litchfield Budget Committee meeting. We'll start our agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is public input. Would anyone care to address the Budget Committee this evening? Okay. We'll close public input and move forward with changes to the agenda. Any additions, modifications? One thing I am aware of is under town business, we have voting on personnel administration and town insurance. As we talked about last week, updated numbers were going to be provided to the committee. Those are still not available, so we will defer that to a future meeting. In addition to that, warrant articles in a rough format, my understanding, will be presented tonight to the committee.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Moving on to the acceptance of minutes from our last session, which was November 14th. I did forward the minutes out to the committee. Hopefully everyone had a brief chance to review that. There was one modification that I had submitted on page 5, row 5, and this was discussion regarding the police vehicles. And specifically, my statement was, I believe there was no need in the community for 2 additional SUVs. So that correction will be made. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 14th?
Motion made.
Thank you, Mr. Piscucci. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Spencer. Additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Motion carries 4, 5, 6, 7, 502. Moving on to school business. Mr. York, welcome.
Welcome, and hopefully we've provided you quite a bit of information on our budget. I will inform the Budget Committee that in the last 24 hours, 2 major issues have arisen that the school board is not aware of or is in the process of being informed and has not had an opportunity to discuss. Both of those issues will have an impact both district-wide for all 3 schools. And the next school board meeting is on the 4th. So once the school board has met and made their decisions and decided what they want to do, we hope to provide the Budget Committee with new budgets for a few line items that will be, that may change or may not change. So you should be aware of that. And other than that, that's all we have. And Dr. Cochran will provide an executive summary of the issues that he feels is important to the district that the school board has decided to support. And once that's done, we'll move forward and answer any questions that we can. You are providing emails. I am sending those off to the, every day I'm sending them off. Every once in a while, I copy you off and it comes back. I don't know why, because one will go through and one won't go through, but the emails are being sent, and the SAU will continue to answer them and make sure that you have the information before a budget item may occur or not. I know we have some information on requests for CHS transportation and some special services questions, and those things have been forwarded out.
Thank you very much, and yeah, the responses have been great, and I appreciate the SAU as well as the school board's participation in helping me manage these requests. I'd ask the committee, if possible, as you compile your requests, if you can aggregate them and send them across in one email, it will make it a lot more efficient in terms of responses to you as well. Okay. Oh, you should pass that, right?
I forgot to take it.
There you go. Okay. Welcome, Dr. Cochran.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back. And thank you all for your time and efforts. First, I want to apologize in advance, because as we go through the budget, I know there will be times that I'll be looking for pages. And the reason for that is that when we develop the budget, we start with the budget manager's budget. And then those become the superintendent's budget. And because salaries and benefits are managed at the district level, those are not dealt with at the school level. So this is the only time of the year that we actually look at this budget in the format that it is here. We aggregate it by budget manager and then up and so on. So I promise you there will be times that you'll know exactly where you are because you see this document year after year, and then I will be fumbling, but it's not for lack of familiarity with the budget as it is this format. You should be in possession of an executive summary.
Yes, thank you.
On the first page is again, we have a set of strategic drivers. First is math program and instruction with some changes in the budget there. You'll notice that, for example, Campbell High School, we have about a $9,000 purchase of new Algebra 1 textbooks to align with where we're headed with Common Core math. We'll see some technology increases there. This year we've doubled up on reading and English language arts on a technology basis at grade 8. So students have math, social studies, science, English language arts, and then the 5th course is a technology-based literacy technology class. Reading, writing, research, argumentation, presentations, which we believe that extra writing, especially in research, is going to help better prepare students for entry into high school. Next year, the plan is to implement a doubling up of grade 7 math. And the rationale for both of these double treatments came from a rather simple idea. We're trying to explain to folks how the old curriculum had a trajectory like this, and the new curriculum just accelerates the expectations, such that by the end of, or by the middle of high school, the grade level expectations are a year advanced. And so we have to find out how to move kids forward educationally an extra year in the same amount of time. And it says, well, so what if we just doubled up on math in 1 year and in English language arts and reading, writing, research another year? That literally becomes double the instructional time. It won't result in double the growth, but it should help ease. And quite honestly, we know that our math results do not have the same sort of trajectory and growth patterns that we have shown in science or reading and writing. And K to 12, those patterns are quite favorable and significant growth. We have a low dropout rate. 1 year it was actually 0. We have a low dropout rate. We have above state average results in science, currently at the high school level, in reading and writing, all three for this first year. I think that we've been above the state average in all 3 of those. We had 3 commended students from SAT results for National Merit Scholarships this year, and actually at the next board meeting we'll be recognizing those students. Math, however, we've not seen the level of growth and improvement that we want and that we need, and so that's why that's there as a strategic driver. The technology piece, and I know we've had a fair amount of discussions about this last year, is about trying to do 2 things at the same time. One is move forward with a vision of teaching and learning that better reflects the future that these kids will inherit. For the federal government, we have to develop a 5-year technology plan that says what we're going to be doing over the next 5 years. Quite honestly, anybody in the schools right now who's writing a 5-year technology plan, you better be writing it in pencil, because it's going to be erased and written over several times between now and the next 5 years. So the question becomes, how do you leverage the increased learning time that technology affords, the increased interactivity, the increased personalization that allows acceleration and/or remediation, and do it with a teaching cost and a cost of ownership that essentially is level funded. In other words, you have to develop a model that doesn't just overlay a technology cost on top of the existing teaching cost. And so what we really need to do, and I've told the board that we're coming forward with this come spring. I wish I had it for you at this point in time, but for some reason I've been a little busy lately. But it really lays out in the next 2 to 3 years where we want to be with one-on-one computing. What are the advantages? What are the long and short-term costs? And how we think we can manage this across all of our systems. The third priority is one that was pretty much identical to last year, and that is moving from a pretty reactionary position with respect to buildings and grounds. The buildings and grounds of the school district are the single largest assets, I would argue, of the town and of the taxpayers. And I'm concerned, as I know many of you are, that we're not maintaining them in the way that we should. I mean, I know as a homeowner that I can choose between, you know, painting my exterior doors this spring or waiting 5 years and replacing the doors. It's a whole lot cheaper to paint them. If I can, you know, recaulk a window, or I can wait 8 years and replace it. So I think we have to look at that more strategically. The board has established a Building and Grounds Advisory Committee that we're hoping will be able by spring to make some recommendations that are strategic and looking at long-term. The building that we're focusing on first is GMS. And, you know, as most of us know, GMS does have some water issues, so we'll be going through that sort of process. How do we maintain in fact, improve the quality of the building, maintaining the lowest cost possible? So conversations that we had, for example, you'll note that there's $10,000 in the GMS budget to try and rebuild and clean out the swale closest to the building. I'm from Nova Scotia, so not only do we have as much rain or more, but we also have clay, which means everything runs downhill and at the surface level. So I know what swales are for. And, you know, taking a longer-term view, let me give you the example of GMS. We know that from about May through to the end of October, we take 24 portable dehumidifiers and stick one in every room and every hallway to suck water out of the air. And on the worst days, in order to avoid slips and falls from moisture condensing on the tile, we pull somewhere between 95 and 100 gallons of water out of the air. And then we dump it outside the building where there's not appropriate drainage, which then pulls it down under the building to come back through, because of course the concrete is old, it doesn't have vapor barrier. And at 5 windows a year that we're replacing, it will take us about 10 to 12 to 15 years to actually seal the exterior. So we're in the process of, by not maintaining the swale, water comes in to the ground, comes up, comes in through a leaky exterior. We then run the dehumidifiers 24/7 for about 6 months at an electrical cost, dump it in the ground, and instead of running away, it comes back into the building. And so we're running dehumidifiers 24/7, months at a time, in order to prevent loss due to slips and falls to the amount of moisture that's condensing. The building isn't tight, and the water's not draining anywhere. This doesn't make much sense. So when I'm talking about strategic use, the cheapest thing to do is get the water away from the school, right? Then over time, get it tight and do something with HVAC. And a lot of those problems go away. I mean, I looked at the last SIP proposal, the capital improvement plan, with $90,000 for a one-time complete redo of the swale. So this is a pretty unambitious piece. Take the piece that's between the school and what's the cul-de-sac behind it, where that's drainage right down away from the school area, and deal with that. Do it as effectively as we can, get as much done as we can with $10,000 and move forward. Nothing grand, nothing amazing, no ribbon cuttings, just good use of money to try and maintain our properties as best we can. The handout that you have in front of you is my cheat sheet. You'll see one grade piece there, and that's a change from one of the numbers that you have. Now, this does not include any salaries and benefits. These are the non-salary and benefit lines as the budget managers present them. We've got the school board budget, and if you look at the 13-14 actuals to the 14-15, what I promised the board that I would try to do is bring in as much as possible a level-funded budget. Anywhere that the board felt I didn't do a good enough job, they took the task of helping me achieve those savings. And so, by and large, other than the strategic areas, we do have some creep. Athletics fees are what they are, and you either play or don't. Transportation, there were some costs, but where we could control costs, school board, district administration, improvement in instruction is up slightly. Part of that is because one cost was shifted from one place to another. Business and Finance Office, HR, if you look down the list, where we had control of things, other than strategically, we pretty much came in at, or most of the time, under level funded. And it was there for a purpose, not that we like to make cuts, but we believe that we have other places that we could spend monies that will better serve the students and the community. The one change that's there, CHS Athletics Transportation, when we get to that time in a couple of weeks, what you'll find is that there's
Double-funded.
self-funded in there for the tune of
Yep.
about $17,000.
You've also overfunded the self-funded accounts.
Also,
The self-funded accounts are also overfunded, double-funded.
there's one other change in there besides self-funded, and that is for next year, we have cut the freshman basketball team. We funded the varsity and junior varsity, we cut freshman basketball, so in the transportation budget, and you'll see that there will be another line that's struck there as well. So all of those are self-funded bills, plus a relatively small amount, I think it's 8 bus trips on that, which brings it down to $60,734. All right. And with that, what I'd like to do is turn the rest of that handout over to Frank to have him take you through that.
Has he met all of us?
I don't believe so.
My apologies.
Hi, I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Nice to meet you.
Bill Spencer, Frank, we met in the summer.
Yes, we have.
Chris Pascucci.
Hi, Chris. Nice to meet you.
Ray Peoples.
Right.
You know me.
I do.
Andrew Cutter,
Nice meeting you.
pleasure.
Nice to see you again.
John Brunel.
Hi, John.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and good evening. What I'll do is I'll briefly go through this. This is hot off the press. As you know, our budget schedule is rather compressed here in Litchfield, so I'm used to 3 school districts from my previous, but this is pretty advanced as far as the structure goes, so it took a lot of cooperation from my friend over there as well, Michelle, who's a great aid in putting all this together. I'll go through this briefly, and if you have any questions about it, but basically the overall budget, as Dr. Cochran has mentioned, 95% of the district's budget is in the general fund, and then obviously a smaller percentage, 3% is the food service budget, and 2% is grants. I won't go through on page 2 because you've already heard that, but the overall budget is being decreased by an amount of $67,735, which is, there's a typo up there, we'll clean that up. Budget increase, I tried to give you a sense as to what is driving some of the increases in the budget. Health insurance, as I'm sure you've heard, if you've been around on a budget committee, you've heard it probably each and every year you've been on the budget committee. Our guaranteed maximum rate right now is 8.5% for next year. So the overall health insurance increase was 8.1. What's driving the difference, obviously, is open enrollment. Some people maybe have switched down their plans, or we had some new hires that didn't take the previous staff members' type of insurance, maybe switch from a family down to a single. But right now, we're projecting approximately an 8.1% overall increase in health insurance. Paraprofessionals is up 13.3%. You'll see further on in the handout, there are additional paraeducators that are being added to the fiscal year 15 budget that are IEP driven. There were also some positions added this current fiscal year that were not budgeted, that came in after, I believe, the budget was approved. So there were some IEP additional para positions on that. Transportation, the component of transportation is regular ed, special ed, field trips, as well as other special type services for what we call 504 accommodation. That is up 4.8%. The district is coming out of contract with its current provider, First Student, on June 30th, 2014. We are negotiating with First Student as we speak. The contract that Litchfield has with First Student provides for 2 one-year extensions to the current contract. With student transportation, there are only a number of players in the business now. There are 2 major players, and there are some other more regional type providers. So we're negotiating with First Student right now, and we will be reporting that back to the school board as to how those negotiations are going. But we did budget for next year a 3% increase in student transportation. Page 4, some of the, I noticed, top of page 4 came out a little bit funny. We'll fix that up for you as well, but some of the items that have decreased for the budget is handicap tuition. There's been a reduction of approximately 28% in handicap tuition. That'll be explained in your handouts. Bond service debt, as you've heard, the district is coming down $357,000, reducing our bond debt by that amount, and it will be fully retired at the end of 2016. Data communication, the district actually brought in...
Excuse me, retired when?
At the end of 2015.
15. Right.
Data communication, the district did bring in a new service provider, which resulted in a substantial savings for the district as well. The bottom of page 4, the cost increases, the challenge, that's my own personal philosophy of probably bringing to the school board. A lot of times we look at CPI as a driver for what were potential cost increases for school districts. But as you can see by comparison, the CPI is a shopping basket of things that school districts really don't purchase. Food, as you see, food, beverages, housing, apparel, medical care. One of the things that I have looked at in the past is what is called the Higher Education Consumer Price Index, because the services that are incorporated into that particular index are more aligned with public education. Our challenge this year was to bring forth a level-funded budget, so that was equally challenging, as you can see what the 10-year average was for the CPI as well as the higher ed. Page 5 just gives you probably been pretty consistent in this district and most school districts. 75% of our appropriation goes to support salaries and benefits. Page 6 just gives you a further definition of those salary and benefit costs. As you can see, 52.4% of that goes to its salaries, and the other 22.5% is benefit-driven. Bottom of page 6, just a quick little comparative of what the costs are doing from this year to next. Page 7 gives you, again, an idea of where the district is spending its money on health and dental insurance. Bottom of page 7, no surprise, the trend, unfortunately, in health insurance continues to go up in the district's cost for those two, health and dental. Page 8 just gives you a little indication of the budget. 11 cents of the appropriated request in the budget is for contractual services, and that is things like tuition, professional services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, those sorts of things that are provided by the district to students on an IEP plan, transportation, and obviously utilities as well. Top of page 9 gives you a little idea of some of the increased costs that are being projected for the fiscal 15 budget, with salaries and a small percentage to the salaries. It was so small, but it is as a percentage 38.4%. In paraeducators, because we are recommending 4 additional paraeducators to the budget. Middle of page 9 just gives you a quick overview of the 4 paras. There is a part-time, half-time, if you will, computer lab teacher and 1 full-time special education teacher. And there is a board voted reduction of a 2nd grade teacher in the budget as well. Bottom of page 9 just gives you a kind of an overview of the class sizes for both, for all of the district, broken down by each school, Campbell, Litchfield Middle, and Griffin. Page 10, top, gives you a summary of Litchfield's average class size for those three schools, as well as the average for the state, as well as the national average for those, so what the trends are. And as you can see, we're pretty on, with the high school being a little bit lower than the state and national trend. Student enrollment trend, again, as health and dental insurance trends up, student population pretty consistent across the state. Schools are trending downward in total population. Page 11, a quick overview of special education. Shows downward trend in handicap tuition from a high point of 2013 to where we'll be pretty close in 2015 projected handicap tuition as it was in 2011. So it's been reduced down to that level. And transportation is pretty flat, projected for 2015.
Just a point on your special ed transportation.
Yep.
Your funding, requested funding for next year is the same thing we funded for this year, correct?
I don't have it in front
Oh,
of
the
me.
answer is yes. The answer
I
is yes.
trust you on,
Yeah.
on sped transportation, Bill.
And just to alert you, when I added up all the individual transportation items, you came short $25,000.
Actually, there's a position that we know of coming that we have talked about that's not included in that because we don't know the resolution of it.
John, all I'm saying is that the details of the special ed.
And I'm just letting, the details aren't right. Well, we do know there's a person missing in the budget, an individual that when added will make that number right.
No, I'm saying on the special ed, I don't want to really get into too much, but on the special ed transportation, you have detailed
The notes
out
don't equal the total.
individual lines that you're spending on.
And when
Look at
that
that.
person is added to the detail,
Then you're going to
the
add
number will
that,
be right.
then you're going to add that to the money that you've already proposed, then? That's what you're saying?
It should fix the number. The detail should then match the number.
The detail will match the number. If you add the 25,000, you'll add 25,000 to the 318 that you budgeted.
I think that we don't have the specific information to put in there, but I believe Devin budgeted that person.
Suggest you look at it.
Why don't we talk about it when we get to
Yeah,
it?
We'll take a look at
I
it.
wasn't trying to,
We'll take a look at it, and if it needs to be changed, we'll bring you a new slip page. for
Things
that.
didn't
Okay.
add up.
Yep.
If I could, because Bill beat me to the punch on this one, page 1 and 2 of the executive summary, if you'll see about three-quarters of the way up the page, line 1501, self-funded programs, which shouldn't be in there, shows an increase of $23,667, which pretty much reflects the addition of boys and girls lacrosse to the self-funded programs. So if you take that increase of 23,667 and subtract it from the middle of page 2, the general fund balance, you'll actually get a total reduction of 90,402.
Yeah, okay.
So once we later back that out, that increase goes away, and the actual general fund difference is a decrease of 90,402. But as I say, Bill got to it right. We want us, Mr. Cutter, start on school board budget?
Ready when you are.
Excuse me, before we do,
School board?
no, before you, because I'm still on your summary here. It's really two questions, one of which is, we're still looking for a revenue sheet. When are we going to see that?
I don't think it's on the schedule to be presented to the board for another couple of weeks, I believe, on revenue.
So we have no idea what the tax impact is of the budget?
Are you, for the fiscal year 15? We haven't
For
done
the
that yet.
proposed budget, yeah,
Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
okay. We normally get that with the budget, Frank, just so you understand.
First I've heard, and we'll bring it next meeting.
Yeah, okay. The other question was a general question. Have you seen a significant loss of teachers because of the lack of contract? Because that's what I read in the HLN a few months ago, and I didn't see it when I looked through the budget.
We, actually, our costs of our mentoring program for the number of new teachers this year is fairly high. We did have significant turnover again this year. And some of those losses were pretty strategic, including a very good math teacher.
At Campbell High School,
Yeah.
basically? Because the other two schools didn't look like you lost anybody, to speak.
I
Maybe
don't
one
think-
teacher. that
I
was
think
good.
most of the turnover was at the high school.
Yeah, it looked like 4 or 5 teachers at the most.
I do know that, by virtue of references and inquiries, we have a very dissatisfied, not universally so, but in an average, a pretty dissatisfied set of teachers. You do have to understand also that people become teachers for a reason, but the climate and culture of elementary, middle, and high school is very different. Typically, it's high school teachers who are more sensitive to the financial situation, more likely to vote against a contract, more likely to move for financial reasons. Elementary teaching population is typically very stable, we're fortunate to have at all 3 schools a large number of very good teachers. I would say the level of dissatisfaction this year is noticeably more than last, and the climate and culture of the buildings is not what it was last year. That,
Yep.
school board budget is essentially level funded except for the reduction for New Hampshire School Boards Association dues and fees. We do get they do provide us a significant policy service. That will pretty much fall to me to do more of that work. And we also do pay them for our projections. I believe that was about $700 of the dollars for the projections. And we did receive those early this week or late last week, one or the other. Other than that, it's pretty much, minor changes, but that difference of, $4,800 is pretty much reflected in the bottom line. Legal services, this is 2 years in a row for negotiations. The actuals were $40,000 last year, but we level funded the budget at $36,500. Based on the trend, we'll probably be over this year as well, quite honestly. But we're essentially level funding. I do believe that there is value in the New Hampshire School Boards Association, but at this point in time, I think we have to take our savings where we can get them.
Question on the audit services, how did you decide 22,440 was the right number?
How do we decide?
The
Actually,
board number.
the audit, as you can see, we spent 18,360.90, and
Right.
I think we're gonna come in real close to the 22,000 this year.
Well, you don't know what this year's gonna run. I mean, we budgeted 22,000, but
Yeah.
you don't know that until the end of the year.
Well, we historically have seen the trend again, is every year they come up a little bit higher, they add some additional costs.
Yeah, but
associated.
historically, have you spent what you budgeted for that
I'd
audit
have to look at
services?
that, I can't tell you directly on that one, Bill.
I think the answer is no.
Well, I mean, we
I'm
spent.
just curious, why
We
did you...
spent 19,000 in 2012, we spent a little less in 2013 relative, I don't know why we spent less, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I
have
just
to-
wondered why you didn't just flat line it. I mean, rather than even increase by $440 isn't a heck of a lot of money, but that's a, you know,
Typically, any service that is driven by personnel costs typically costs you more each year,
if the number you're starting with is a good number.
of course.
And the number you're starting with is a budget number, not an actual number.
That's agreed to as well.
What goes into the election services expenses associated with deliberative?
I'm looking down the end of your table.
You want me to? Moderator.
I could answer it, or if you want a better answer.
Well, I mean, it's basically moderator, supervisors of the checklist, we pay them. Any production of paperwork that, annual reports, all that stuff is all in there. I get paid out of there. So, anything and everything that has to do with deliberative should be in that account.
Okay, so the moderator, for
Moderator's
example, is
separate.
not, I thought that was separate under, I saw that here.
Moderator's under salaries, but, ballots, we have to pay for our ballots and, printing and all that stuff. That goes, we have them printed the same place the town does, so. And,
And you have custodian services too as part of that?
custodian services, well, that should be under salaries, but yeah, it should be. And I think we've basically level fund that, so.
Well, I saw, what was it, you spent, let's see, 13, which was, that covered last, so what's it, right? Yes. Right, 1137. And we approved 16, and for this year, we approved 17. So that's why I'm kind of trying to determine what goes into it, and if it's going to be up to 1,700 this year. I mean,
It's possible, because the ballots increase every year. The cost for them, the cost for printing increases every year, as much as we hate that. It really does, and depending on, well, hopefully the annual report cost will go down, but, 'cause-
wait, the annual report, that's in the town budget,
The town pays for their side, the school pays for their side.
but isn't it all electronic this year?
It will be all electronic this year. Well, we have to print up so many hard copies, but they'll be done at a Staples versus going out to a printer.
My question is this, I don't know if this is the right number or not, I'm just looking historical and knowing what the changes that were made, that I guess we're gonna make a handful, basically, of paper. And I think those books were $7 a piece?
$7 a piece, yeah.
Right, and I guess they were split in the past, right? You made 1,000 of them, they were split or something. Now, basically, you'll just make a handful for the diehards that have to
Right, and then we're
hold
gonna burn the DVD a few, and then
Right.
we're gonna leave it online, so that's the deal. That's, the cost definitely went down on our
So that
side.
number should go down then?
I would say
We
so.
can give you some more detail on that.
Okay.
We can go back and look at what the components of that line are, and just give you more information.
The audit trail.
Huh?
The audit trail.
Yeah, we'll give you some more.
Thank you.
Yep.
I understand, I appreciate your leadership in, in your executive summary. I mean, I agree on a lot in this budget and the direction. And even to the little thing, I understand there is value in something like the New Hampshire School Board Association, I understand, but I also agree with you 100%. That's an expense in these times we could do without. And I think that was a wise and a good move for many reasons, at least now. Do we still have to pay, we still pay every year, write a check for the, what do you call it, the enrollment projections, right?
For the,
For the enrollment projections?
Yeah.
yes, I believe of the 4,700, I think 700 is the enrollment projection.
So even though you're not a member, you could
I
piecemeal, you could
believe that
buy?
we can.
Okay.
If we have to, Bill and I will do it for.
I don't need
I was gonna say, but Bill can do it
But
in
they
an
explain the
hour.
methodology well enough that if we have to, I'll do the school side, if he'll do the live births and the other piece, and the bill will be under 4,000, no, I mean, we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
I
Any
get paid
additional
the same
questions
as
on
I
this
get paid
part
for
of
this.
school board? We're moving into salaries and benefits for school board.
Again, slight increase of that, 68% roughly of it is driven by benefit increase. As you may or may not be aware, we're a pretty small pool within the healthcare field. We have the same healthcare options available for union members, administration, any other full-time folks. And I believe we're also bundled with the town to try and get a large enough pool to foster the lowest rate that we can. You're probably aware that last year, the tentative agreement with the teachers' union, the single largest goal and potential benefit of that tentative agreement, which lost by, I believe, 45 votes, was a movement to a lower-cost healthcare plan. You know, so in terms of costs, that is what it is. And as long as we don't have a new teacher's contract, then everyone is on that same healthcare plan. And the rationale is that it's just prohibitive to try and move a subset of the group to a new plan and split the pool even further.
And as long as you've discussed healthcare, let me just point out that at some point in time, we will have a major discussion about the total cost of healthcare. Because clearly, year after year after year, what we expect is not what we pay. And we'll have a discussion about that. And I think it applies to this budget as well.
Other than that, it's pretty much level funded. And pretty consistent with our 2013 actuals. And as I say, between the 2013 actuals to this year's approved was a difference of only $350, which would be more than eaten up by the healthcare change.
For now.
Any questions? Okay. SAU?
The first tab, district admin. Again, some up, some down. If you look on the second page, software lease, a reduction of $7,151.44. Mr. Markowitz, did you want to
Sure.
give the rationale
Sure.
for that?
This year's budget had, for software, for e-finance, which is our accounting software, my predecessor had recommended to the board, had approved 2 additional components to be added on to our e-finance software. One was for vendors to have access to a part of our accounts payable, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, the other. I have decided strategically not to bring those 2 components into the district at this time. One is because of my own learning curve with e-finance. I wasn't quite thrilled to bring in 2 new components, and I'm not sure of the value added to it as well. So I cut those out of the budget, reduced the budget for this year. Obviously, we're going to reallocate those funds that are in there this year, but we reduced it for next year by that amount of the 2 components.
Question on 610 supplies. Dr. Cochran, you reduced $241, which is a pretty specific number. I'm guessing that is for one specific thing in that budget?
Page, Chris?
I'm sorry, page 1, line
Okay.
610.
I cannot recall.
And then my second
He
question.
did it.
Yeah, it was your reduction, but
I could check my notes
I'm
and see
guessing
exactly.
my next question is, do you think it's still high? I mean, last year it was raised pretty considerable. No, actually, it wasn't raised from the year before. It's just been underspent every year. So it was lowered this year a little bit. But I'm wondering, that line too, what's the makeup of SAU supplies, and if that number is still high?
We can give you more detail on that as well. I mean, that's pretty broad. Supplies, we'll see if we can give you some drill down as to
Or-
what those expenses are. Sure.
Or if there's some duplicate in
Right.
other lines?
Right. We can do that.
I have a question on 580, same page, travel. Actually, one row above that. What justifies the increase of $250 for this year. And the reason why I ask is, looking at over the past several years, we've never spent what we've budgeted in the tune of probably around $1,000. So just curious as to why that's increased
One of
again.
the things that we don't do a good job of, and this came up internally last year and again this year, is the differentiation of the travel, which is internal, which is external, which is conference travel, is written into people's contracts and things like that. Quite honestly, I can talk to Barbara and see which of those it is. Mileage reimbursement, I think, is a general mileage reimbursement for SAU office members, myself included, for mileage, as opposed to conferences, which would be conference travel, would be airfare and the such. Last year, we caught a bit of a break because I was asked by the Department of Education to stay and participate in a national seminar that was nearby, and so they paid for a portion of that trip, and the district accrued the savings.
But, are these the same annual conferences year after year that perhaps Dr. Cutler would have attended prior to yourself?
Essentially, yes.
Right, okay. Is this the same, I have another one here, on line, page 2, 580, same type of thing, conferences, travel?
That would be the Business and Finance Office.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry.
Okay. This one here, I mean, just so we're on the same page, you know,
Mhm.
it's,
Yeah, in this case, it's in the business administrator's contract, I believe, for travel to both the regional and national business administrators.
And Steve was the president, so he had his expenses covered for the last couple of years, because he was in leadership for their conferences. So when Frank goes, he's not.
yeah, this one, you know, it's, I feel it's $2,000 high, but understanding perhaps there's a rationale for that for historic purposes that we should take into consideration. Okay. Additional committee questions?
Wait a minute, where are you all going? I came here to see crap.
Okay.
This evening, the fellow that's playing machines haven't been playing crap for quite a while now.
Salaries and
Namely,
benefits.
24 hours.
see your salaries and
I do not
benefits?
care who is tired. I am out 25 feet, so nobody. I begin to
The
logically-
school board voted to implement step increases on all non-LEA personnel for this year, no COLAs. And they also created a budget for the superintendent to use for his staff, a percentage budget line for him to use for reviews and stuff like that for the people that report to the superintendent. So those will be in your salaries and benefits in non-LEA positions this
Where
year.
do we see that?
Well, should be, did you put it in one line item when you made that?
I did. I just need to find it.
But that occurred at our last meeting, so that you guys could,
No COLAs,
no COLAs, just,
step,
we just went back to our process that we have that, on that.
and I didn't see anything in here, John, on that
Well,
one.
I looked for it the other day, and I didn't see it, so, but I wanted to bring it up,
Yeah.
so you knew that we weren't dealing with COLAs.
We would ask the question.
Yeah, I knew you would. I'm anticipating.
I don't remember seeing anything in here, Frank.
I don't see it.
It would, I'll let you know hopefully shortly. It is in here. We put it in at the last moment, so.
Well, the COLAs would be against the individuals anyway, so we wouldn't see those.
Well, we put it in as, instead
Put
of.
it in as a lump,
Yeah, I
a
put it
lump
as a
sum,
lump.
like
I
a
did.
dollar amount.
Not anticipating, but just in case there were any changes subsequent to once the school board voted it, instead of making all the changes in the appropriate
Okay.
lines, we just put it in as one.
And for the superintendent, how much was that?
I'm sorry? Oh, it was
Yeah,
1% of the overall salaries, which is just over $11,000.
I'm sorry?
Of the total set aside for those administrative was 1% of the administrative school's salary, which is just over $11,000. But these were designed and approved as merit-based and no one will automatically get a raise.
Yeah, so a total of $11,000, is that what you said?
It represents
Yeah, it represented 1%.
Basically for the administrators and, yeah.
principals and
Both
stuff like
SAU
that.
and school-based. To a pool, I think, of 15 or 16 people.
15.
So this will be under curriculum, salaries, and benefits? Is where
Not
it...
sure where it was.
He's not sure where it
it's
is
captured.
yet.
I do have to say,
I didn't
Um,
see anything in there.
I was talking to someone at the superintendent's meeting last week, and they were saying how it was going. He said, great, good year in a lot of ways, very busy, that we had a new business administrator and HR director at the same time. And they basically looked at me like I had a hole in my head. And said, so, are you sleeping at all? And I said, yes. It's a heck of a transition. It has taken a lot of work and a lot of the old story about the duck, and everything's smooth on the surface, but underneath they're pedaling like crazy, and there has been a lot of that this year. But I have to say that I've been, very pleased with the transition. A few things have dropped, but nothing's broken. And, first time through, this is pretty much what it's gonna be until we get through at least to deliberative, and then we're almost back to a 4-year cycle. So, your patience with some of this, with Steve having been here for 8 years and Elaine for 5 years, their ability to respond quickly to questions was certainly much more grounded, so your patience is appreciated. Any questions in general about the SAU salary and benefits? Again, a small decrease.
Why such an increase on the non-teacher retirement? It's line 231 under 2510, page 2.
That's on page 2.
Non-teacher retirement, 231. Towards the top.
The savings?
I'm sorry?
So you're looking at the
I'm the wrong one again?
5385?
Which budget are
I'm
you
showing
in?
an increase of 331305.
Which budget
It's on the
Oh, up top.
district administration.
SAU salaries and benefits, okay, that's where it was.
Well, what we had in the SAU office was a shifting of some responsibilities. There was a job description change and a significant salary change in the HR position. And because the modified HR position had fewer financial responsibilities, therefore the pay was lower. And that savings was used to increase the hours for the payroll coordinator.
Yep.
So one of those is up and the other is down.
So the payroll coordinator was taken from a part-time to a full-time position, which made then that position eligible for New Hampshire retirement.
Wasn't before.
It wasn't before.
So that position
Overall,
this year was increased from part-time to full-time?
Yeah.
the overall cost-benefit analysis was a saving.
There was no new monies brought in. We had a salary adjustment on one position downward, took that savings, brought it over to make that part-time a full-time position.
No, I understand fully. My more.
That's a philosophical question.
Right, yeah, my concern is taking a part-time to a full-time, you know, which is where actually, the voters did not want to happen. So that's so which position was that?
Payroll coordinator.
If we hadn't gotten people paid, we'd be in a lot more expensive trouble than that.
I know that there's always a justification for either creating a new position, and then once it's there, then there's a justification for expanding it, and I believe you, quite honestly, and that's not my concern.
I understand.
Yeah.
And the board,
The issue on that just was that somehow or another through the process, the tasks had moved from where they should have been to another person because they wanted more responsibility. And when that person left and the new person was brought on, the skills did not equal. So you had to make an adjustment, and the board, as we looked at it, this was the most cost-effective process
and
for everybody.
I can assure you that the board did not take the request lightly.
I'm sure it is.
They were very aware of the town and the budget committees, and when we looked at the alternatives, this was by a margin the best option. It was, as I say, it was not done lightly.
Can I ask a couple questions about your payroll? Just kind of how you got my curiosity
You
aroused.
could
a little
ask them,
bit.
I may not be able to answer them.
Well, I'm just kind of interested in what the payroll process is. Is the bulk of your payroll hourly, where somebody's inputting hours by day by? No.
No,
My
I would-
guess was it's more like salary, so you know what basically everybody works every week, pretty much?
But if it were that simple, it would be a neat position, but it's not. Even the salary, as you can think, and I don't even know how many employees we've got, but you've got leaves that need to be input. This person handles all the data input based on a hard copy payroll. We're still doing it the old-fashioned way. Timesheet comes in, and there's all adjustments even to the salary. There could be time off.
Really?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you got teaching staff that have sick time, professional days, personal days, bereavement.
I'm just thinking because out in industry where I'm at, we've automated our payroll process, so it goes from the field tech, they're entering it right on their device, now it goes right in, it's in payroll, it's sitting there ready to process. It's a review process, so we're going the other direction in industry.
The other thing that complicates it is the number of stipended positions, coaching positions, that not only have to be hand-entered, but they're done on a series of pays throughout the year. So one set of stipends that are athletic are paid on this schedule, and another set are on another schedule. And so it's rare that we actually have a single payroll run. And even that payroll run, the most automated piece is the teachers.
Okay.
And I do think, and I will preface with, again, the learning curve, my knowledge with e-finance is 6 months. But I'm sure e-finance does have the capabilities at some point to automate some, if not all, of that process. But it's a learning curve, it's a relatively new accounting software package for the district.
I just think I'm echoing Chris's, rather than look to technology and automation to help solve the problem, we increased staff and gave them retirement. We increased the position and gave them retirement, so. You don't reverse that easily.
Nor do you automate that easily. I come from the private sector as well, and it is a process, and it would, we're not a huge district, but it would certainly take some time, and I think, again, the learning curve to get the folks that would be utilizing it, and to find the time, quite frankly, to get that implemented.
You know, in the long run, I think the time is worth it to implement anything that cuts back on labor. As we see, it's 75% of the whole budget is labor, and I think that keeps going up 1% or 2% every year. And it's true, you don't reverse, you know, additional labor and retirement and hours very easily. It's easy to go in the up direction, near impossible, or impossible pretty much ever to go back. But hey, it is what it is now.
Additional questions? Brooklyn.
Two major changes, one on page 1, dues and fees. SORES, Southeast Regional Educational Service Center, runs a Brentwood school. We have been members, I think, since 1978. The membership fee is $3.50 per student annually. I had a vote in the last month of the board to not renew our involvement with SORES. We did get some benefits from the SORES membership, including a 5% reduction in any students that we sent to Brentwood School, free use of facilities for meetings and things like that. Again, I think there is value to it, but we also moved a $6,000 piece of software subscription on page 2 for $6,900. It was funded elsewhere in. We're trying to keep this budget level funded. And while I believe there is value in the organization, I recommended to the board that we withdraw, and we withdrew. Actually, effective this year. So, you know, similar to the School Boards Association, there is value there. The budget is tight. We have other things we need to do.
And how does that impact Brentwood?
Brentwood is kind of a subsidiary. SORES is a nonprofit. Quite honestly, the loss of our tuition fees were probably more than outweighed by a recent placement. SORES simply has a smaller number of people on the board of directors.
Let me rephrase my question. We're still using Brentwood,
Yes.
and is there a change in the tuition cost because of?
Well, we used to get a 5% reduction.
So now it's,
But last year, we had no students there. We had none at the start of the school. I know we had one. last-
you have one there.
We have one?
Yeah.
We had one that has been there for a bit now. By and large, it doesn't pay for itself with the savings. You know, if we had multiple students there every year, it actually would be to our benefit.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous organization. It does a lot of good work. If we're in a different place financially, I wouldn't have recommended that we
Yep.
give it up, but that was my recommendation, and the board accepted it.
A common theme for me tonight, I guess, is travel. I have another problem with 580, which is the first line item in this budget. It seems very excessive based upon all years that I have history of. Is there a reason?
I think for a while, the district I know for the last 2 years, the district had been very hard unless it was mandatory that you had to go, or And even we had contracts with employees, and they waived going. And I think that the school board is stepped back from that, and we feel that, you know, the people need to go because we believe in the end it improves the district. So I think that the school board talked about mileage and travel and stuff when they made their final improvement on the budget. And, you know, it's one of those things where we finally have said, okay, we cut it when we needed to make the major cuts, which have been 3 or 4 years, and we've left it there pretty much. And we can't continue that because we do believe it has a negative impact on the district.
In this case, in terms of the actuals, the person did not attend the national conference last year. But
Or the past 3 or 4 years, right? I mean, I have data going back to '09 and looking at all that, the
Well,
max.
some of those years, there wasn't a person in place because,
Okay.
and then Julie, Dr. Young, has been in place for a couple of years now, and so she's the person that would be going. Is that correct?
yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So, we had taken the position from full-time to part-time under Dr. Cutler. And that, when we made that change, we pulled all travel for that position. So, so you probably would not have seen travel for this position or conferences for a few years for this position.
Additional questions?
Yeah. On page 2, explain the software now.
My Learning Plan is a prescription software, number of accounts times 180 times $15 and 40 times 5. It is a software that was selected several years ago to keep track of teacher professional development and recertification. Teachers have individual goals, individual plans. It also electronically looks after the approval of funding that's required in the teacher contract, $360 per teacher for courses, $180 for additional PD per teacher. And so that is all done electronically with a series of electronic sign-offs. But the major thing that it does is it establishes individual repository of individual teacher goals and tracking of professional development that allows them to recertify. And I believe it's in its, Michelle, 3rd or 4th year of implementation.
3rd, I think.
And the change really is reporting this in the budget that it should be in. We have some other issues as well. We have, for example, NWEA testing is in the guidance line, and it should be in here. It's improvement of instruction is where that should be, because it's really about feedback to teachers. So over time, you know, we are trying to make budget adjustments that more appropriately represents expenses where we believe they should be.
So what you're saying is the actual expenditures we see here don't really relate to what... Okay. Fine.
Any other questions? Salaries and benefits.
Bottom line decrease of $13,000. Two major areas. Page 1, a reduction in the mentoring. depending on what happens with the contract. If you see this year's actual, and note that next year's recommended, it's a $2,500 savings. If we have the same turnover this year that we had last year, that fund will be shy, in essence. That's a very optimistic school board reduction, from my perspective. The other thing that we have is standard language in administrators' contracts is that, we have some reduction for the course reimbursement because we have fewer eligible employees, in essence. We have 124 teachers in total, whereas I don't think we had made the adjustment last year. We were budgeting for 128. And so we reduced it to the actual, to the penny figure. I'm not sure that that had been done every year in the past. So that was that small savings. And the other big one is line 270 on page 2. Administrators, principals, vice principals, directors have in their contract that, pending some sort of major budgetary situation, they're pretty much guaranteed 2 courses at the UNH rate of a 4-credit course of $3,000 each. And so we used to budget that at its max. Last year, we knocked it down. And this year, again, we actually, sent out an email saying, what are you going to take? And since nobody's actually, I don't want to say this too loud, but nobody's taking courses at UNH, they all tend to be at 3-credit institutions. We also used a lower course rate of 2,000 a course instead of 3. So it's an actual max, not a theoretical max. And these are the courses, these only represent courses that people have indicated that they will be using.
So all non-bargaining, so not the teachers.
No, just administration, principals, assistant principals, director of special education. Some of us have wasted so much time that we have so many letters after our name that we don't bother with courses anymore because we're already stupid enough. But for the others who are still aspiring to, other things, it's pretty much standard if you want to hire a quality person that you will, but we've gone, as I say, from budgeting theoretical maximums to a real maximum this year based on if someone comes in now and says, I'd like to take a course, even if we get some turnover this summer, all things being equal, they wouldn't be able to in the first year unless we found some money for them somewhere else.
But when you hire somebody, that's, as the benefit package, that is written into their salary and benefit package, which is the decision of you.
My
Did you
decision.
write that?
Quite honestly, people usually ask. They want to know what the benefits are. That's one that, we're fortunate in that we don't have that many people using it at this point in time. What tends to happen is if salaries continue to fall behind, people start to do it to try and, get what benefit that they can from that. Right now, it's pretty stable. We've had people who've been here for a while. I like to keep them, quite honestly. We're pretty happy with them. So.
In the contract, it's a little bit different here in Litchfield. It does, and I'm paraphrasing, it does say subject to budgetary constraints. So that it's not a given. It's not like health insurance, you will get health insurance, you will get dental. It's in there as a benefit subject to. So that's a nice thing from our standpoint, because again, if the funds aren't there, at the superintendent's discretion.
Yeah, the odds are even at 13,000,
I'm sorry?
the odds are that even at 13,000 for this account next year, that they won't spend all that. That's observation.
Last year, we had a situation where people said, I'll be taking, X and Y, and we don't think we're going to do that this year. So the email that came out from the office basically said, please consider this, we need an accurate accounting of this. If you really don't think you're going to use it, do not, because we want to reflect about the accurate number in the budget. And I didn't put it in the email, but people were informed that the school board and the budget committee looked at this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we have it pretty accurate.
Yeah, no,
But, yeah.
all I'm saying is that if I look at what traditionally you've spent in here, you don't come anywhere near the 13,000 either.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that what you did is wrong. I'm
Yep.
just saying the odds are it's not gonna come in at that.
Well, as I say, we're in a situation where we can't afford to leave a pool of $10,000 sitting there doing nothing. You know?
I want to ask on the mentoring, you said depending upon how this year goes, I mean, obviously you mean the teacher's contract, so, and then you said it's a optimistic line. What are the thoughts behind that?
As I'd indicated earlier, I think there's a pretty high level of teacher dissatisfaction. And I think that one of the major things that pulls, and I'm speaking for myself here, in years that the district has not had a contract in effect, in most districts, teachers still continue to get steps. We've not. We have some teachers who are 5 steps behind their years of experience. Now, a step in our district is about 3% increase,
3.5.
2.5. So if you take somebody who has a higher salary scale and they would move from step 8 to step 13 all at the same time, you're looking at a $10,000 increase. If you're a sole income family, you can't afford not to do that, quite honestly. You know, I had a couple of conversations with teachers last year who said, I love the schools, I love the kids, I don't want to move, but I owe it to my family because it's such a significant increase to drive 8 miles less or 8 miles more to teach at another quality school. If we don't have a contract this year and teachers don't have steps again, like our costs are going to go up with healthcare because we're locked in at 8.5 max guaranteed maximum rate increase. So are theirs. It just becomes a lose-lose.
What do mentors do?
I'm sorry?
What do mentors do?
Well, there actually is a written set of specifications that outlines exactly what the responsibilities are. They're to meet with them a certain amount of times. They become the person that the new teacher can come to for advice on everything from lesson plans to managing workload to, you know, I have a student who is exhibiting X. And so while there may be many people who mentor in some way, there is one person who is identified as being, you know, the major person who they have to go to. Usually it's in the subject area, not always, depending on the person's prior experience. If you have an experienced person, the mentoring is more to orientation to the school and the district's aspects of things. And so it may not exactly be the person, depending on the amount of turnover in that department. I mean, we have 2 new math teachers this year.
So mentor may or may not be these people depending upon who and if people come in, and whoever the mentor is gets a $500 stipend for
In
that.
this,
Is that how it works?
in this case, I believe we have the actuals. So if you look at Diane Angelini is a mentor of a math teacher. Justin Ballou, I believe it's a social studies person. Matt Colley is mentoring a new special education teacher, and so on. And the program is structured enough that we have a $500 stipend to Denise Freeman, who's been at Campbell High School since its opening, who acts as a coordinator and ensures the oversight, that the meetings occur, that, you know, they do a follow-up survey to make sure, you know, the mentors are doing a good job.
Now, has our turnover, getting back to the original part of the mentor, has the turnover been abnormally high or more consistent within the past 5 years here?
I believe
Because
the
there's
last-
always normal
The
turnover.
last couple of years have been abnormal, and not just teachers as well. Paras, been relatively stable with administration.
So we know there's at least one school out there that keeps approving, one town that keeps approving raises.
I'm sorry?
There's at least one town out there in southern New Hampshire that keeps approving union raises.
We've,
Because I know other ones do not also, so I know we're not the only school.
no. Wyndham, for example, is in a situation where I believe they're in year 3 of no teacher contract. It's not a pleasant place to be typically. You know, we have people who were through a similar situation in Nashua. When I was there, they had a year of no contract. It's just, and most teachers got into this business to make a difference and to work with kids. And, you know, if you're distracted by concerns about whether or not the community values your service, whether or not the school board values your service, whether or not the budget committee values your service, you can really start to question why you do all those extra things. And the people who are impacted the most are the people who give the most, unfortunately.
I'm sure we'll have the discussion, that coming up in a future meeting, which part of the question I'm going to have, and I just want to understand the terminology, because I know that's important. We interchange, we hear contract, mostly, it's without a contract. I don't believe it's the contract, it's more about the raises and the benefits, right? Because I guess a contract would be approved if it was a contract being at a zero, impact to the town. I don't see any contract ever not being approved anywhere in the United States if it had a zero impact on dollars. So it's not so much that it's the contract, it's the raise and the benefits is what it really is, because contracts would be approved. Or if there was ever a decrease, I'm sure it would be approved. So it's really, we value them, love to have a contract. I'm talking now for these towns that claim that the teachers are not valued because they're not approving a contract. They're not approving the raises, so it's...
This isn't
It's
really
a terminology
the
thing.
appropriate forum for this, but just let me say that if you do the analysis of where we stood compared to our peer schools or comparative schools 5 years ago versus now, you would notice that we had dropped from the high mid to well below the average.
And I don't want to argue, I mean, I was just talking about terminology so I understood it properly, because I always interchange contract with raises also, and I got a more clear understanding of it now.
Any other questions? If I may just ask a generic question, not related to this budget, I think we're pretty much wrapped up with what you're going to present tonight anyways. On the executive summary that you handed out on slide 10, it goes over student enrollment trend and some projections, and another document was forwarded to the committee. Thank you for that. It says for fiscal year 15, we're expecting 1,332 students excluding pre-K, right? Which is about 100 students less than fiscal year 14. Correct?
That sounds about right.
Right.
What's in that number is, I can't remember if they use half students for kindergarten and preschool or not. In terms of, do you mind if I speak a little bit just about the trends and how that impacts?
No, I'm
The
hoping that you
budget
can, because
process?
my questions are going to be related to, we're making large investments in technology, we're making
Yep.
large investments in Common Core, right? Noticing the trend shifting down, right? What difficult decisions are you gonna be faced with, not only with this current budget and the projections, but potentially future budgets?
And quite honestly, when enrollment changes, sometimes enrollment can change significantly with no real increased costs, or it can decrease with no real savings. If class size in the middle school, which is now 23.4, drops, if every middle school class dropped a student, that would be 21 students. We wouldn't save a penny, because each class would just drop from 23.4 to 22.4.
Yep.
On the other hand, if those 23 kids all disappeared from the grade 1 enrollment, we would save a teacher, which is what happened last year. And so I think I indicated last year that as this trend, if it continues, and first, This year, you're seeing a very good tracking to the projections. But that's October to October. Last year, we actually picked up a significant number of students during the school year.
We had
You
12
can't, on the
students.
revenue side, for adequacy, you can't always budget on it. But Litchfield is still I think, seen as a good place to live, that has good schools, and as long as that happens, houses are gonna turn over. And as houses turn over, then, you never know what's gonna happen during a specific year. As we look at the program now, this year's grade 1 enrollments are running behind last year's. Last year's, we were down an entire class. So is this a one-year blip? Is it more likely, if you look at the birth rates from 5 years before, that this is a multiple-year trend, maybe a permanent trend? So we've always had cases where a big class or a small class goes through the school and you go up and down, so the grade 6 team has an extra teacher 1 year, and the next year the grade 7 team, and the next year the grade 8 team. This year the graduating class is 103 students. We have 138 grade 8 students. That's a difference of 35 more kids at the high school next year. Given the class size, we're not going to ask for any more resources. We believe we can handle it without it. But we actually took a one staff member reduction at grade 8 last year, and moved we used to have a grade 5 team, 6 team, a 7 team, an 8 team, and a 7-8 team. We reduced one teacher to move all of the grade levels to 5-person teams. And the entire grade 6 team taught a 6 block, which is why 6 block costs went up to $71,000 from a traditional 30-something. So what happened was we took we ripped a position, we took the salary savings and took those to cover the additional 6 blocks, wanting to get teachers into that double model with the technology literacy course in grade 8 a year early. So we'll actually accrue that saving in next year's budget. This year's budget, the savings was wiped out by the additional 6 block. If we have a small grade 1 again, we'll have a reduction, and we'll have 4 classes at 1, 4 classes at 2. So when it happens in a very structured way like that, you can predict in advance what happens. If, however, that 2% decrease comes across 13 grade levels, it's tougher to predict where the savings will come or not. All of a sudden, you can have no savings, and then stuff shifts, and you can reduce 2 teachers in 1 year. So, the board, I think, did the right thing in making the reduction. Last year with the grade 1 position, we left it in the budget and then didn't fill it. So in this year, numbers just didn't seem to warrant putting a 5th grade 1 teacher in. So how that impacts down the road, you have to look at staffing. If GMS ends up, with 4 classes, and so we're down to 4 classes at 1, 2, 3, and 4, do we still need the same amount of unified arts capacity? And how do we still offer the full level of the curriculum without that? Does that mean we have a half-time teacher, 2 more years down the road? And then if that trend continues, what happens so planning this out to try and maintain the integrity of the program while we're taking, those savings where we can. And in some cases, I'm going to make arguments for repurposing some of those in ways that make sense. I know you'll not always agree with me, and the board won't always agree with me either, but it's my goal to advocate, it's my role and it's my goal to advocate for the schools for the most important things. And that's also why we tried to bring in the budget that we could, because we want to use the money in the best way that we can. We understand where the town is and where the tax rate is. And I'm very open to having those conversations at any point in time. If you want to, at any time, once the budget process is over and as we get closer and enrollment patterns become clear, if you want to, ask Mr. Fork or Mr. York have me come sit down and say, what does it look like? What are we trying to do programmatically? And how does that impact the potential budget? That's more than willing to come.
It seems to me it's relatively easy, as the enrollments go down the way they've been going down, to address the staffing positions at grades 1 through 8. That's pretty straightforward, I think. It's at the high school level where we haven't really seen the total reduction. We won't see that for another 6, 7 years, where it gets a little bit tricky in terms of your staffing. And I know you've done some things in there, and I know you're trying to balance it, but as the high school is smaller, you got to make the decision what you're going to offer and what you can't offer, and how are you going to offer it.
We've looked at, very recently, this week, I looked at staffing costs. If you look at we're well under the state average cost per student.
Yeah.
And typically, it's high in elementary, lowest in middle school at the state level, and then high again in high school. And it's especially high when you have a small high school. And small, I would define as under 1,000, and we're half of that. So we've done a good job, I think, of maintaining quality programs and breadth of programs. But there's a cost to that. And next year, as I say, we lose 103 graduates, hopefully all 103, and gain 130 some. We always lose half a dozen or so to primarily Trinity and Bishop Girton. And we know that from the past. This year's sophomore class is a big class. So next year, our junior and freshman class will be big. So we'll have 2 big classes there for 2 years in a row. So I think it's pretty predictable that when the big sophomore class leaves, the budget year before that, we'll have to take a serious look at the impact. The other thing that we're working on for a couple of reasons is having the course selection and scheduling process done earlier. Right now, Michelle has already received a request to have the program of studies changes on the board agenda for February 4th, which would mean that we would be doing course registrations by early March and potentially know our staffing levels by sometime in March. Because once you get your request counts, then you go from your request counts to your staffing levels, and from your staffing levels into the mechanics of the schedule. That benefits kids, that benefits parents. It also benefits the budget process. We were very late last year. We had a changeover of guidance counselors. We also have a very dysfunctional student information system that chews up huge amounts of our guidance director's time in budgeting. But that's the goal. One of the benefits of having the program of studies done early is that it improves advising, and we make better use of resources and better decisions around how we use our budget money.
One final question. Do you happen to know the capacity level at each of the schools? It's okay if you don't know off the top of your head.
That number's well known. It was talked about for years.
Yeah.
500,
Yeah.
400.
Well, here's the thing. If you look, for example,
Apologize for being a rookie.
No, that's okay.
if you look at GMS and said, gosh, we lost a grade 1 class last year, and if we lose another one, now we're down 2 whole classes, maybe we can get rid of the portables. Well, right now, we have classes in the portables, kindergarten classes in the portables, and the reason is they're in the portables is that every possible space in that tiny little building that can be used is used. Right now, with the expectations and the change in expectations for students with special needs, we have an OT, occupational therapy, speech and language person, and physical therapy person, all employed as employees because it's cheaper that way than it is, even with healthcare benefits, than it is to contract out by a significant margin. Well, they're in the storage room space, so we have no storage room space. We also have other service providers that are doubling up on rooms. So literally, you could, as classrooms become available, you literally just take people out of tiny scrunched areas and actually give them in the sort of space that they should have in order to do the job well.
So, not to be rude, do you know the sizes, or?
Oh, no, in terms of the size, right now, the classrooms, for example, in GMS, are at the very minimum square footage allowable for classrooms. The capacity itself I mean, just multiply the number of classrooms. We have, what, 22 classrooms at GMS?
But I would assume the fire department has some type of number, right? That
I
is
think
set.
I think it's, you could put 25 kids in each class, and
Say again?
about 25 kids in each class. Because there's a law, the state says you have to have X amount of square feet per student.
That's a design law, that's not a restriction, number of kids you can
Right.
put in there.
I have a lot of notes if you want to see them from
Right.
5 years ago, but we went through all of that. I'll be glad to get them to you, seriously.
Hey, many years ago, we had over 600 kids in that school.
In
okay?
GMS?
And I know, yes, and I know times have changed. And we were working with something like 21, 22 classrooms at that time.
We're quite lucky at the high school in that every teacher has an assigned classroom. In many high schools, that is not the case. People travel. I know, I've been in a situation where I taught science in different rooms and took my cart up and down the hallway wherever I was. You know, there was one year that I taught science without a lab, and I taught physical education without a gym because it was under renovations. Fortunately, they did provide me a car for driver education. But I know what it's like, and I know it compromises the quality of the job, but,
We've had the cats at LMS also, before the portals went in there.
You know, I want to add my 2 cents. It's positive. I mean, for example, GMS, I mean, it's not perfect. It's not great. It works. This conversation, and it, you know, it was had for years, and, you know, I can get you some information on it. And I just appreciate, this is where I want to compliment you, your leadership in focusing, because it was different years ago. You know, so I appreciate even the little things, the tough decisions with Ceresc. It helps. I mean, it's a little difference. It's a little painful, not that painful. You're redirecting the money. I mean, those little things do matter. Your honesty, your willingness to answer the tough, I mean, it's not easy. It's tough questions, tough answers. It's never personal, but they have to be asked. And, you know, high school, you know, is a good school. We need to maintain all our schools. We need to put the effort, I believe, into fixing the issues. The swales you mentioned, great idea. That was talked about years ago. I mean, great idea. For the small amount of money can make a huge difference. If we keep on that pace, I think we're good. Remember, in the mid-2000s, the enrollment was going up 50 to 75, 80 people, but the budget was increasing by $1 million to almost $2 million each year. So, I mean, now, okay, it's decreasing and the budget's staying level. That's a plus. I mean,
I will tell you that the same thing I told the school board in the last couple of meetings, and that is, it has been such a busy year that some of the things that we've discussed as a board, we don't have that 5-year plan. We don't, you know, I mean, I have been spending a lot of time on logistics and command and control and management, and not nearly as much as I would like on the strategic planning piece. And so, in some cases, you know, I'll not be able to justify some of the things I'm going to put in front of you to the degree that I would like with a multi-year plan showing the long-term benefits. And I understand the potential implications of that. But I do thank you. I do believe it's best to be honest. I do believe it's best to be open, and if you have questions, please ask. You know, with respect to GMS, they have a fabulous administration and staff, and they just make things work. They're just wonderful folks. We have a nice mix of experienced staff. We have some fabulous teachers down there. And as I say, you know, elementary people are generally so much in it for all the right reasons, as most of our teachers are. But the collegiality and the finding ways to make it work just seems to be more natural with elementary teachers. But we do have a fabulous group of teachers all the way around, and the physical plant is not optimal. Quite honestly, 50% of our losses are for slips and falls. And a lot of them, if you think of the parking lot and the shape that it's been in and the slips and falls that we've had, if you think of the, you know, the water issues that they've had inside, that it, you know, if the dehumidifiers went on a humid day in June or in September, you have people out mopping the floor several times in a day. to make sure that we're not going to have a slip and fall. So they work hard. You know, they maintain the building as well as they can, and they've been very patient. I think the amount of support that I've gotten from the custodial folks, Sue Ayer, who does a fabulous job in this building, Tony Koblenz at LMS, and Dave Ross, who's been down at GMS for about 15 years now. So we do, I think, understand the notion of you know, trying to achieve what we can with the lowest cost possible. I left in the budget $20,000 to support what was a major safety issue at GMS, and that is the drop-off in the morning from 8:10 to 8:20. That backs up all the way down sometimes all the way back to Pinecrest if you've been there. And it's a hazard to kids getting out and a hazard to people on the road. And we came up with a compromise solution that we started just over a week ago. And because right now, for fear of safety, all the cars pulled up in one car at a time. The kids got out, said bye to mom or dad, and were, you know, supervised as they walked in the building. And then the next car and the next car. We had 20-some cars back in the line. I don't know if you've seen it if you go by there. And the request was to put in a sidewalk in front of the 30s building that would allow students to exit out at the right-hand side safely. And that way multiple cars would be able to offload at the same time. The problem was that's a 2.5-foot wide driveway. And so cars could pull around each other, and so if a student got out to the left instead of the right, you have an issue. So between Kevin Lynch and Jack Pinchiero and Dave Ross and Frank and Scott Thompson, I went down and looked at, you know, is there a way that we can do this cheaply at the board's request? So instead of being given $20,000, we were asked to try and find a solution that works for two. So we piloted with some stuff from Jack, narrowing the 18.5 feet down to about 12. Put in a single lane sign, people come up, and now 4 or 5 at a time can get out, step to the right, and move forward. So I was there the first 3 days that we did that, and got some very quizzical look for some parents, and we sent home an alert now. And so it appears to be working, and if we're comfortable with it moving forward, you know, we put in the budget $2,000 to put in a zebra stripe and put in some markers down through. And that will be a temporary barrier that will have to be plowed, so we'll be able to move those off, plow, increase the safety, and do it with as little cost as possible, because we, you know, have other things to do with the fund.
And that's the type of effort and resourcefulness that I know goes a long way and needs to be mentioned, and I think that's great. Mr. Chair, may I ask a couple questions on future budgets instead of emailing them, or should I just email? I got a couple simple ones. Okay. And if I read it right, the custodial supplies, that is paper towel, toilet tissue, hand soap, is that what is included in the 3 budgets, GMS, LMS, and CHS custodial supplies? Is it simply the...
I'm under the impression that it's more cleaning supplies. Now, paper towels may be in that, but I was thinking it was more soap, wax, those sort of industrial products.
So,
But
custodial
it
supplies...
probably does include paper
would.
towels and, you know,
And-
bath tissue and...
And I notice, I think there's increases, if I saw, it was estimated at 6.2%, it reads in there, and I know you spoke of a number earlier, you said it's not CPI, it's another number you use.
Right.
And I know that, I think the year before, you had level funded it, and this year it went up. You know, I usually defer some of the other members on certain items, specifically technology, which I know very little, if anything, about. But the things that I have a little sense of, I want to speak to those, and this is one of them. A lot of time, I mean, I know costs do go up, but subtle changes could be made to offset. It could either be in product or suppliers. And I'm 6.2% increase is a lot by itself, but I still think, I don't know if you guys have gone out to bid any time in the past number of years. I don't believe you have, is the best of my knowledge, but it's kind of an arbitrary number. Because, like I said, changes could be made in ordering and maybe more bulk ordering, or even if you don't do bulk, to have the just-in-time delivery, which they don't charge, some suppliers don't charge you any more for. So you could order 5, 6, I know storage is tied at GMS, so you could order 5 or 6 cases at a time and they'll deliver at no additional charge. It's just, it's a huge jump, and I think the total number for the 3 schools is about $60-something thousand in all types of cleaning supplies. And there's other types of cleaning supplies where you buy a gallon, but you mix it, a little different formula, and there's a lot of new systems out there, and if we haven't looked in a while, it might be worth it. And the other one I spoke about a few times, and I apologize to everybody here, I'm gonna harp on it again, is parking lot sweeping. GMS, this year's $1,200, it's up from, last year, it was budgeted $1,000. LMS went up too, it's $1,200, last year was $1,000. CHS went down, it's $1,200, it went down from $1,500, we're still up overall $100. I believe, if I understood, because I asked Mr. Bork, the response I got back was, you sweep 2 times per year. And all I'm asking is, because I've asked about this in other years, and I never got a definitive answer, but I'll say it again, the sweeping company that sweeps the town does the entire town, every street, both sides of all sand, for a total of $7,500. And we're at $3,600 for 3 parking lots, and I see that very, very extremely high.
We'd have to look at that as first I'm hearing. Well, I think I did provide Mr. Bork with some information on that. It's not just sweeping, is my understanding as well, and I can get more detail on that for you. I believe it's also cleaning out the drains. There's other work associated with just having a truck come in and sweep through the lot, but I'll get you some more detail.
Thank you. And on that note, just under the sweeping, I did see a catch basin cleaning line also. Because, I mean, GMS is a tiny lot, and so is LMS a little bit bigger. But overall, I mean, I know the vendor, and there's not many vendors. It happens to also be my business. I'm not the vendor for you, but that's for all 3 schools, is a $600 job total, once a year.
One of the things that we discuss at the board level actually is, and typically when people think you're not doing your due diligence, they ask you to go out to bids. Well, going out to bid is not always the most competitive way to do it, because once somebody gives you the lowest bid, you're stuck with it. When you may be able to go to somebody and say, look, get real here. You should be able to do this for X, not Y. But when you get the lowest bid, then the lowest bid gets it. But I think if you establish a track record of good management of your money and best use of your money, then I think you earn the ability to say, we're not going to go to bid with these sorts of things because we think we can work our vendors and save money in that way, and not have to go, get somebody who's a purchasing agent. Matt Bennett actually is quite good with vendor relations.
Yeah. I think you'll
that makes a little bit of stuff go a long way.
Parking lot of the school parking lot sweeping is going to be moving to the town, and they're going to take over the process of sweeping our parking lots twice a year.
And, that probably, well, once a year, would it's right after the winter is just sand.
I don't know when they, I think it's.
They do it in April.
We do it once a year.
Yeah, once a year.
and stuff,
And for an
too.
additional probably $500 to the $75 that the town pays, it could all get
Well,
done.
we pay $8,000, plus doesn't include any catch basin maintenance, so.
Well, it's a
catch-
different vendor that does catch basin.
Right, but the catch basins cost like $250 a basin to clean out.
No, we're not talking about catch basin.
But there are I thought you mentioned there was catch basins.
No, but there's a different line in the budget for catch basin. That's separate from the $3,600 for sweeping. There's a separate
It's
line.
eight- it's
You talked to
$8,000.
Jason about that, though.
Actually, John, I think it was
Sorry?
77
Didn't you talk to
this year,
Jason
wasn't it?
about
No,
that?
8,000, I'm looking right at it, 8,000.
So there's an action, just to better understand.
I want to
what's in
understand
the
those things,
budget,
yeah.
and we-
No, I believe we've had a conversation with the town about that. We
That's
just
the first
hasn't,
the first I've heard about it, so.
well, I think our business manager and Jason talked about it. I don't know.
Was that today?
It was at the direction of the board a meeting or so ago, or 2 meetings ago.
When
so
Jack was here.
It was something
Go over his
that
budget.
we had asked them to talk with the town about. I
Minor.
don't, it's not, it hasn't moved any further than where it's going, but I think that there was some conversation.
Yeah, as the
on it.
sweeper's going down the street, he could pull in and around, it'll take, CHS will be another 10 minutes. And one last thing, I think it's just a clerical thing, and if I read it
It's
right.
about 10 minutes, but that's okay.
See,
It's not
no,
10
I mean,
minutes.
I'm sorry, GMS.
You think it was, or you're hoping?
Assuming there's no cars in the
Yeah,
parking lot,
GMS
it's
would
by.
be. No, I think, I don't know. I think I saw the top dresser under maintenance in two different budgets, the district-wide and the CHS, one for $1,350 for 1 week and one for $1,300 for 1 week. So I think I saw it in two
I
budgets.
thought the board brought that up.
So I might
And
be-
requested it be in one place or another. If both are still there, then it was an error on our part.
I
Because
figured
the-
if
the
anything, it's-
board had already,
When-
if I remember correctly.
It should be in CHS.
Top
That's
dresser.
what-
Right, because you use it at
It's
CHS.
a local,
Did bring that
it should
up.
be on CHS.
Okay,
The
so,
rationale was that it wasn't an attempt to put it in twice, it was to provide an either/or.
I agree, that's why I asked the question, and I don't know if there was a line that reduced it that I didn't see, but, so that's why I said it was a clerical error, because I know it's, you only need it for 1 week, because I remember Matt last year saying you only need it for 1 week.
Okay.
There is a line that reduces it in the CHS one.
The same number?
Only $7,000.
No, it was, no, that's for the purchase of the top
Yeah.
dress, I
Oh,
saw
you
that
mean
one.
the rental.
The rental, correct, I saw them reduce the purchase of it. That was a separate line.
Final questions?
I do have some outstanding questions, which I think that you have. One of them that what I am interested in is the utility information.
That's gonna take us a little bit of time. to
Yeah.
get that for you.
And I suggest you take a look at GMS Electric, and I think you'll find that your smart start payments are significantly lower next year. In fact, they're lower this year than we have in the budget, because that was two contracts, and the first one, I think, is up this year, sometime this year. So I think you're overfunded by maybe $10,000, so you want to take a look at that. And which one reason I wanted to see the utility numbers. And the stuff on the handicapped, on the special education, get that to me when you can. You know, that's just building up for when we sit down
They're in the
talking.
very last meeting, the last presentation, because as you know,
Yes.
it's very volatile, and students who were just identified in September, October, there will be some decisions made, in some cases, what level of resources, and,
Yeah.
you know, the way it's been lately, it's been, each week has been its own event, an own set of surprises.
Yeah.
Some in a positive way, budget-wise, and some in a not-so-positive way, budget-wise, so.
I had asked for the audit trail on the
Yes, I saw that.
Campbell High School. I'm going to be looking at the same thing on special ed, but not yet. We'll wait until 1st of December, or something like that. I'd like to see that before we meet.
And you're probably aware that the board did make a bottom-line reduction on special education transportation.
Which I don't understand.
And the way we budget it basically is, we anticipate what the placements will be for next year based on everything we know at this point in time. And we have to assume that they're traveling by themselves in the bus, and we cost it that way. And then we work, I say we, Nancy Cassidy,
Yeah.
works very hard to contact every district in the local area to try and find when we can double up and have it work. So if, you know, Alvern and us or another middle school in Hudson has, make the extra swing, split the fees. The problem is we never know when we'll be able to do that or when it'll stop. We did have a case last year where partway through the year, we had a student who was a once-a-week, very long trip. And we had 3 students from the local area who traveled to Vermont. And one of the students from another district stopped traveling because the student had turned 21 and is no longer eligible for services. And now, instead of paying a third of the cost, with 1 day's notice, we had to pick up half of the cost. And so, you know, we don't always do a great job of giving other districts a heads up down the road when our needs are changing so they can anticipate it. But that's how volatile the
Traveling to where?
Vermont, I think.
Augustine? That's the only school you
Don't
have.
want to be too specific for,
Well, that's the only, Vermont is the only, and that's only $8,000. I mean, that's peanuts in terms of the transportation budget. I mean,
yeah, because it's only
It's insignificant.
once a week.
Yeah, insignificant. Okay. The sped transportation budget, though, you basically have requested the same amount you have in this year's budget.
I can try. One of the conversations, we didn't have really enough time to talk about it last year, is, you know, while we understand that we have to budget it for the worst-case scenario, we know that we'll get at least a minimum amount of savings every year. So what then becomes reasonable? We did that at I made a cut actually to the Campbell High School athletics transportation budget, in the area that was budgeted for postseason play.
Right.
Each team was allocated 2 bus trips. So if you're away and not home, then you didn't win the league. And so the odds of every team making it and traveling twice, while in theory that could happen. So I made a bottom line reduction that said, okay, it's pretty even optimistic to say that this should be at whatever %. So some sort of funding level with sped transportation, I think makes the same sense, but I think we have to be a little conservative. If we go on last year's actual percentage of what we budgeted versus what it cost, and then we come in 5% higher than that, we have to find it somewhere.
Well,
And
you've
the
got a $100,000 reserve fund though, my friend.
Yes, but that can be gone in 48-hour
We
period,
had that for a long time though, and
I know.
yet to lose it.
you know.
That's a
I'll-
discussion, that's a
I'll
discussion next
suggest-
month.
I think that it's effective budgeting to say we know that we're gonna collect some savings, and we know what the range of savings is likely to be 9 years out of 10,
I'm with you.
and be a little conservative. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that's a fund that we would consider sort of protected. That if we know we have 15,000, and 15,000 can disappear pretty quickly in sped transportation, that would, will always be turned back to the town, but anything excess, and that sort of thing. So,
Okay.
anything else?
Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Have a great
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
I'm looking forward to December and more conversations.
Thanks for coming out.
I'm just gonna sit over here for a second.
Okay. We're gonna move forward with warrant articles. Okay.
Wanna move forward, what?
Was there anything else additional on the school board side, John?
No, not that I know of. We're in pretty good shape.
I believe they are, yes.
Is it okay if I take one?
Oh, absolutely. I probably printed out too many anyway.
Moving forward with town business and warrant article review,
Would you like to do a general update first? What's on your agenda?
if there is one.
There is.
Okay, great.
All right, so everybody probably saw the communication, the tax rate has been set. The town portion was down about 3 cents, but the total tax rate is $20.57 per thousand,
What's the increase?
76 cents. And all the increases, well, the increase was local school was up 73 cents, state school was up a penny, county was up 7 cents, so it totals up to a 76 cent increase. The town did do as they committed last year. We committed, including revenues and fund balance, about $240,000 to the tax offset. So about $170,000 came out of fund balance, and we had $70,000 in additional revenues that we didn't plan for, so.
I have 2 questions, just for anybody watching, the cents increase, what does that translate to, like a $300,000 house?
I don't usually do the calculation. Give me 1 second.
About $210.
Yeah, exactly.
Already had that number, huh? No calculator either.
Yeah, that's good.
And so you took money out of the general fund balance. How much is left in there? How much does the town have left?
In the fund balance, I don't know. I have to double check.
I guess, is it still within, because since,
Yeah,
still within what's recommended as
Absolutely.
the reserve?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yep. So additionally, folks that have been following along around the cruiser loans,
Yes.
that money was received and put in the account, so the next run, you should see those accounts start looking more normal at this point, so that's coming through. The other major thing was the police contract was approved by the Board of Selectmen, so you'll be seeing some additional data about that. I will tell you that the highlights are basically, in 2014, there is no salary increase. It's a 0% increase, so no increase. The increase is in 2015, it's going to be 2% if approved.
I'm sorry, what was the number?
2% in 2015. It is only a 2-year contract, it's not a 3-year contract. So year 1 is 0, year 2 is 2%. All costs in for 2 years, the increase would be $71,917 if approved by the voters. It includes a education one-time stipend in 1 year for 2014. It also includes a 457 match program that will be paid for out of detail revenues. So for when they work details, they can actually pocket that money into their 457. There is an overnight shift differential that was put in, or increased from 50 cents to $1 for second shift. Uniform replacement program, and also a reduction in healthcare for new employees. So it would be an 80-20 split versus the 100% that it is today.
What's the reason why they did 2 years? Because that's not customary, right?
No, it's not. 2-year was, one, because of the school contract potentially coming up. They committed to, they understand the school contract's coming, that's why they went with 0% increase in their salary. And so they figured they'll look at it again in year 3 and see if it's reasonable at that point.
But the cost of negotiating that contract is significant. Time and negotiation to do it every 2 years is.
Well, I will tell you that the negotiations was pretty smooth. The union and our representatives met a few times, obviously. I don't know if there was any lawyer fees associated, all that stuff. We didn't incur any costs on our side for the most part.
Now, my opinion on that is I actually like the shorter-term contract.
Yeah.
You could, with what's going on in the economy, in the real world, right?
You're right.
I mean, heck, it's almost what I almost prefer a 1-year contract, but.
So I'll get out a sort of a rundown for everybody. Take a look at it. And I don't know if it's custom, I'm assuming the Budget Committee votes on the recommendation for the contract, right? Do you present? Yeah. So we'll get you the full wording so you can see it and take a vote on it. That was it for that. Those are the notable updates. As I said, there is no, if we're okay going into the budget side, we'll go there, I guess.
Okay.
Warrants.
Any questions on what was presented so far?
I guess it doesn't pertain to this, so no, I guess it pertains. No, thank you, I'm all set. I'll wait for that, my question.
So as you originally announced, we are going to defer personnel administration and town insurance. Nothing has been changed since you've seen it already. We haven't made any adjustments. We plan on doing that at our December 9th meeting.
Okay.
So we'll confer, and if we can throw that in the next meeting, we'll do it then.
Which would be the 10th or the 12th.
Give us the 12th, just because we got to get our paperwork squared away and all that stuff. But yeah, the board should be voting on all those. With regards to warrant articles, the handout you have are all the monetary version ones. The wordings, they're not in DRA format yet, so the wordings are going to change, obviously. We haven't actually voted any of these at this point. We have agreed in that these are the ones that we'll probably potentially go forward with. They're ones that we believe that are important. The prices, the costs that are associated here are best estimates at the time. The other question we have, which we're working through now, is whether or not we're going to leverage fund balance to pay or ask for a tax increase to do it. So obviously, the one that we have already defined is the painting of Old Town Hall. That will come out of fund balance. But the rest of the programs, we're trying to see where we are from a banking perspective or a finance perspective. I think all these you've probably heard about, but the big notable one is probably the payment improvement program. The town is trying to figure out a program that would allow us to get more of the planned work done sooner, right? So the concept right now is we're asking for a matching grant or a matching fund, I guess, for the road money we get from the state. So we get money from the state, about $170,000. We're looking in this next year to try to match that at $170,000 so that we can get if when Jack was out here, I think he probably talked about his plan on, sort of, Plan 1, all the roads were listed out. Plan 2 was if we were able to compress some of the funding issues and the timing, how many more roads we can get done. So this would allow us to get, instead of getting one road done in next year, allow us to get 3 or 4 roads done next year. Just trying to dress the 25 years' worth of work that we have if we go with the same consistent funding model we have today.
So you're doubling up.
We're trying to double up, yeah.
But when we see the actual warrant article, it's not going to make any reference to the highway block grant money.
It will not make any reference to the highway block. Well, it does say, there is a reference in the current wording today that it sums to match the highway block grant.
That is very confusing, John.
Yeah.
And that would confuse a voter in thinking this is highway block grant money.
Yeah, and we talked about that too. And we also talked about not actually naming the road, right? Because if we name the road, potentially if they say no, if something happened, if we were able to fund it out of our own, we can't do it. So we're still working through the wording, and we don't want to confuse the voter, but we also want to have them understand why we're trying to do it, right? We only get X amount of money from the block grants. We have this amount of work to do.
Yeah, well, the point, though, is that this proposed warrant article has no relationship whatsoever to what the block grant money is.
That's true.
And so it has no reason to be in there.
The wording block grant?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take that back to the board. At this point, it's still there, but.
Should set it for you need to set it for amount, you can't leave it variable, right? Just keep it at
Yeah,
170,000
and the other, and the other thing, this is a one-time ask, right? So the plan right now is to go back, if we were successful this year in doing it, we would go again and ask next year to match whatever we thought the revenues would be at that point in time. So it's only a one-time ask.
Yeah, what you'll be faced with, though, I guarantee you, is people asking you, what are you gonna spend the money on? Because
Oh, we are planning a deliberative, and we've been posting other things to kind of show, here's our road plan, here's how we score our roads. It's all becoming much clearer now since we've been able to put a lot of more effort to it. And these are the ones that are priority. But then you get, the other side of it is, well, my road's just as bad. Why is that not first, right? That kind of thing. So we do have it. A lot of it is about the cost of the project, the priority of the road, and we're trying to, rough numbers. A road is $50,000, another road's $75,000. We're trying to get $170,000 worth of work done next year. And so we've picked roads, the priority ones, but we've also gone after ones that are just little ones, get them out of the way. So we're working through it. The rest of the warrants, as I said, they're there. I don't see them being dropped off. These are ones I think we'll go forward with. With regards to the drainage and stormwater planning, as everybody knows, we have to do a stormwater plan every year. The EPA is, the U.S. government is what controls those criterias. That's all up in the air in flux. We're being asked to do a whole lot more that we're not experts in. Things like mapping our drainage systems and the forms that are associated. So the dollar amount that's there is not accurate at this point. We're still trying to figure out what that looks like. But we can't no longer do it in-house. We used to do it in-house. I did it one year. Yeah. Last couple of years with all the different renewals, it's gotten much more difficult. We've had to hire an engineer to do it, to come up with these plans, to fill out all these forms and so on. Now they're asking us to do additional mappings and outflow stuff, so we're trying to figure out what that's gonna cost, and I have a feeling it'll come in at half that dollar at this point. But- If there's any questions, I'm certainly try to answer it. If not, I can find the answer for you.
Questions, comments?
And that's all I actually have, so.
On open, non-monetary, what's the rest of line 7 supposed to read?
You just caught me because I did a double-side print and only wanted the first page. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Those are been published on our site, so you can go look at them there if you like. But I can get all the wording to you. To see if the town. Oh, this is, I know what this wording is. This is our attempt at putting together a committee to kind of start defining our capital improvement programs. Have it so that we actually can have a defined plan with, year 1, year 2, year 3 kind of things. Today, we kind of do it, not haphazardly, but it's, it's not really set, it's not set well in a well-structured plan. We're just trying to get to that. And that would include everything from fire truck replacements, station replacements, to desks, to computer, everything would be included in that program as far as the document and stuff, so that's what we're trying to do.
Final questions, comments?
What is the, I'm sorry, where are we?
We're about to move into member input here in just a
Oh,
moment.
I'm open non-monetary.
I should have stopped it there.
Number 3, what is the proposal? I just read it, and it will take me 10 readings to figure out what it says. What is the proposal?
The proposal is to try to cap the conservation fund.
Cap it at $1 million.
At $1 million, and then have the excess go into a general fund.
To be spent by the Board of
It's gonna
Selectmen?
go in the general fund, and I think at that point it has to be appropriated, but it would go into the general fund. And these aren't even agreed to yet, these are still drafts.
And this was, the reason that we're proposing this was because of the issue we had with the Dara Pond
And the milfoil, right?
milfoil?
I think that's part of the problem, yes.
Well,
Oh, that's number 6 is.
Yeah,
you know,
number
oh,
6, there is one
I
on
didn't
6
get
that
down
talks
there.
about it too.
Okay. Okay, so all that, okay, so your, number 3 is to get your hands on the money then, like you tried to do when it was before.
That is-
All of it.
Yeah,
Okay, so that now I understand, okay.
Yeah.
So now, item 6, we'll do what we talked about, which would let them use the money in that reserve
Right.
fund to do the milfoil. Okay, I know where I'm voting on these.
I do have a question. That form you printed for us.
Yes.
That's accurate now, which means 14, Budget Committee approved indicates, as of now, 2.2%, 2.26% year-over-year increase.
That sounds correct. I have to pull it
or
up, but yes.
town,
Town.
yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Now, basically, you're coming back with the personnel,
Doesn't finish.
right? Yeah,
Yep,
that's not done. They look at a page.
yeah,
So-
don't look at it anymore. That only was for the monetary ones, so they're not complete.
So is it a safe assumption that when those other budgets come back, assuming there's no other cuts, that percentage will go up? Is that correct?
You've already, I think that already includes those budgets, there's no adjustments, those adjustments will, I don't think it's gonna go up much more than what it is,
So
to
the
be
two,
honest.
yeah, correct. The 2.2%, 2.26%, excuse me, does include the $56,000 in change for insurance, the
Right.
$473,000 for personnel, already factored in.
Yeah, it's just not been changed by
If
the
those
budget committee.
adjust higher, the percentage will go up.
There's a chance they're going to adjust higher, or do you think they are where they are now?
I think they're pretty good estimates right now, and I gotta go double check my notes.
So as it stands now, the proposed spending is about $115,000
Yeah, about that.
more than last year.
113, I think it was, but.
Are we looking for healthcare adjustments, or are we all set with the healthcare?
Healthcare, there will be, we just got our not to exceed, but I think we're all set. I don't believe there's much of an adjustment
Okay,
there.
for some reason I thought that there were still estimates in the budget.
There are still estimates there. I don't believe they're gonna adjust much, I don't believe they're gonna adjust much higher or lower. There is an adjustment that's gonna come, but it's not a large, I don't believe it's a large swing. And we'll see those also on December 9th ourselves, so. Yeah.
Additional member input?
Yeah, I have actual member input, that was just a
Okay.
question. So if
Oh.
we're on that section now,
We are on that section.
Okay. This is in reference to the town budget. I've been spending a lot of time, I know we all spent a lot of time, everybody here takes their obligations very seriously. I'm speaking right now as one member of this committee, and I've been struggling on this budget because right now, as it stands, that budget means that there'll be a tax increase on the homeowners of this town, based on the town budget as it sits right about now, and I know it's not final. I fully understand it takes money to run a town, and I understand the town does a very good job of doing what they do. We know about prioritization, we know about wants and needs, but now I'm comparing, because I know we all compare, we compare to the regular world. I'm a small business owner. Every day I make what we call the tough decisions. on spending every dollar, especially more now. It wasn't that way years ago. Times have changed a little bit. Money was not as tight. Now it is. Everybody's a little bit more cautious. There's no doubt that it's going to turn around again. I'm confident of that. I've been through a couple cycles, but we're not there now. Right now, as it stands, this is the part that I think I'm losing a little sleep over, because I'm not prepared to recommend to the people of this community that to run this town a tax increase is necessary, because I don't believe it is. The average homeowner, for the most part, knows exactly how much revenue they're going to get in a year. They have a job or two income, they know it's coming in. The way they do their budget, since they don't have access or easy access to additional money, they start with that number and work backwards. Of course, some things have to get put off, some things have to be modified, some sacrifices have to be made, and that's just the way it is. I just want to let people in this room know that my discussions and motions during this process of the town past few weeks were not meant to be personal or confrontational, and to Mr. Brunel, including the one about the selectmen's salaries. I know there were tough discussions, but they were all in an attempt to achieve the goal that I had, to not increase any taxes, to give the homeowners of Litchfield a much-needed break. And I'm not even talking a tax break, because I'd be satisfied with just not adding to the tax burden. That's my goal. So I'm not here, some people would say it's unreasonable to spend less. My goal was to try and spend more. The same. The Board of Selectmen's goal was originally to start out 5% less with the hopes of spending equal. It's not the job of this committee to make policy or to govern. That's the Board of Selectmen's responsibility. But it is our responsibility to either recommend or not recommend a budget to the voters. And given the current state of the economy, and knowing what people that I speak to and things I hear, remarks, as soon as my kids are out of school, I'm moving, I hear these things. Taxes, if you compare to other towns, might not be higher or as high or equal, but services are not compared to a Hudson or surrounding towns. We're unique. This is a beautiful town. And it's almost getting to the point, in my opinion, in these economic times, where it's getting tough. And if we just had now another $210 tax increase, and then it's going to be another $210, and then another $300 on top of that, at some point there's going to be a breaking point. So again, and I gotta sift through this some more, but as I see it right now, I'm not prepared to recommend to the voters that they should give us or give more money, their own money, which needs to come out of their bottom line of their fixed budget to run the town, because the opportunity for the average homeowner or business in town to just get more money doesn't exist like it does in governments. That's all I had to say.
Can you tell me what the bottom line of your budget is right now for the town? I just want to make sure the number I have is right.
5,090,273.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, and that's a 115,207 increase, 2.26%. I would just add and clarify for those who are perhaps watching and for those in the room, right? The town is operating under a default budget, as we all know. There are costs being pushed down from the state level, and some increased costs are certainly fixed. All right, we talked a little bit about that.
I agree with you. And may I add just one more thing? And again, I fully understand, and I'm trying to make sure my comments come across as reasonable as they are, because sometimes my comments don't come across the way I intend them to. Again, let me compare. In my business, I have these costs that came my way that I have no control over. We hear that. We heard it from Mr. Brunel. We heard it. Nothing you can do about it. But yet, even in my home, when the cable company, I had an increase of $37. Well, what I did is I had to call and cut something out from Comcast to get it back to the number it was. Or in my business, if a vendor says 2% increase, then I renegotiate a different product, or I might have to cut back, or service, I might have to scale back with something. Remember, I'm running a business with employees, I'm running a household. I got it from both ends. And you can't get more money. And sometimes where it comes off of, after the dinners with the families get scaled back, and, I mean, years ago, we don't have this conversation anymore, but years ago, it's just a cup of coffee. Well, we don't talk about that anymore because everybody already gave up the cup of coffee. That one's already spent. So now we already gave up the weekly dinner with the family. Now we're at the stage we're giving up we need a new car or the vacation, so we give up more, because it would be nice. It's like, hey, it's out of our control, we need more money. Boom, pick it out of the air. You can't do that. Governments can do that. So I'm looking at it from me, and I don't want to talk for any other member here, because I watch all the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and they do a good job, and they try and do right for the town and the employees. But I'm here because I am trying to advocate for the people in this town, from all the 55-plus communities that are on fixed incomes, to the average person like me, who all my customers are looking at me and saying, not what services can you cut back, it's going, this is all we could afford to pay you, cut back your services to make it work, but yet we want the quality to be the same. And my choice is either I walk away from it altogether or do it. 5 or 6 years ago, I wasn't asked that question, and if I was, I probably would have walked away. But it's a different world now, and we all have to work within budget. So I understand there are fixed costs, but that's where the so-called tough decisions have to be made. Everybody that ran for office, every office always claimed, got to make the tough decisions. That's what the tough decisions are. And right now, remember, last year, the voters said no to just about every new and increased spending. So I am listening to them. I am abiding by their wishes until they tell me different. I've been talking to people, and I'm going by my own personal situation where my personal or business budget is not increasing, so I need to maintain what I have with what I got because I can get more, and I'm trying to convey that point to the town. Thank you.
Andrew, could I respond to that just a little bit? Because I think that, Chris, you're zeroing in on just one piece of it, which is the expenditure piece. We've got the revenue projections from them. They're up 50,000, something like that.
Yep.
We've asked for estimated valuation, still looking for that, John.
Yep.
It would be good to get that. And we have no idea what the town will do in terms of fund balance on the town budget. So until we get a handle on that and understand that, I don't know whether the tax rate is going to go up or down, Chris, to be honest with you, based upon what we've seen here. So I'm not ready to make a call on that. I asked John earlier this evening if he'd send us all copies of the letter from the DRA that set the tax rate, and that spells out all the various inputs. I think you need to see that and look at that and figure out where we're coming from before you can draw a conclusion that you can or cannot support this budget.
I agree with you 100%. I was very careful not to mention tax rate. I
Well,
mentioned tax
but
increase.
that's the bottom line, is
Right.
the tax, what the tax is to the person.
And that's why I said we need to, I'm struggling with it, and I need to see more. That's why I said right now, as it stands, we need to see other numbers, even though I'm still not going to, even though if they funnel some already taxed money into it, which is what they're doing with fund balance, it's money that was already taxed, that they now may choose to give back. So I kind of count
Well,
that, but
fund balance is not just money that's been raised by taxes, it's also revenues that are generated that are in fund
Yeah.
balance, right? So
Large portions.
I think it's important to note that, I know I've said it before, and you're sort of focusing on that there are fixed costs that we've inherited. In the last 2 years, we've inherited almost $299,000 increase in our budget due to the hydrants, which was voted overwhelmingly by the folks, the citizens of the town. We've now incurred that, now it has to be paid for. That's up significantly this year also due to a rate increase that potentially is coming. There's $75,000 in this budget that was increased due to personal administration, which were things were already approved by the voters. Whether it be raises,
all.
expenses. No, everything isn't voted, everything, we have, the non-union employees have not had a raise since 2010. There has been no increases except normal
it's totally different, though. You just said it was all improved by the voters. It was not all.
70 hydrant fees, anything else in
was.
personal administration would have been the union contract. That's the only place there's been significant movement in wages. Even if you wanted to call in, because I know you brought up the question last time about town administrator. The town administrator was voted on by the people who came in, and we now have a town administrator, and we have to pay appropriately for that. And we're doing that within reason, based on the investment we've made and what he has saved his town. The budget is, over what we asked for last year, is only up is up $97,000 over what we asked last year. When you factor in $75,000 of that, of costs that were handed down to us that we've got to kind of deal with, that's pretty good for a town our size and for what we have to offer for services today. You talk about cutting things, or you didn't say cutting, but somehow living within the means. We are living within the means. We're leaving our service levels the way they are. You know, we're asked to do more, and we're not. We're just doing what we can, and we're trying to live within the boundaries that we have. I disagree with your perception that the voters overwhelmingly voted everything down. The budget failed by only a few votes. It's 50-50. A lot of those programs failed by a 50-50 kind of thing. I agree with you, but we're still doing the same thing. We're not having, you know, large swings in our budget. We're trying to maintain the budget and maintain the service levels because we've not had a clear message that says, cut this or cut that.
There's one last thing I need to say, because I know it was brought up a couple times about because we heard it numerous times, and you just said it. The budget was not overwhelmingly, it was a handful of votes. I hate to use that as the criteria, because if you really want to get technical, you use just the opposite of that 2 sentences before, because the voters did vote, for example, a town administrator by a handful of votes. So the point is, so if you got to say it wasn't, then did the town really want an administrator? Now, I'm not saying they don't, but the point is, if you're going to use that analogy, it either passed or it didn't. So all the spending articles last year passed, including the budget, and for relatively small amounts of money, relatively speaking, because.
Failed. Failed. You
I'm
said
sorry,
passed.
failed. I'm sorry, you're absolutely right, failed.
No,
Thank you.
I agree with you. I'm not, what I'm saying is that we have a, you know, the town's a
understand.
business, and we
I
have to run the
understand.
business, and
I
we have things we have to get done, and there's a cost associated with it.
I just wanted to state.
I think the employees of this town have done
I know they have. I
great
agree
job
with
in
you.
trying to keep costs down, and we're continuing to do that every day.
I say the same to my group of employees too, and it's a struggle on a daily basis, because as much as they're worth, then I say my customers aren't willing to pay, so here's the choice in front of us today. The choice is 2 or 3 years from now will most likely be different. But it's really, not all industries. There are some industries that are doing real well in this town, and you think you know which ones they are, but a lot of industries are not, and a lot of homeowners are working a lot harder for a lot less, and they got much tighter budgets, and they're saying no to their kids and to certain things and simple luxuries a lot more than they have in the past. And those are some of the people at times we need to talk about and think of.
Mr. Spencer.
John, I'll come back to your warrant article, non-monetary Article 3 of getting a hold of some of the conservation money. A couple of years ago, the Board of Selectmen very nicely pulled the franchise fee out of the revenue stream, dedicated that to the cable committee. That was $100,000 revenue annual. Maybe it's time to reverse your position on that and go back and send that money back to the general fund. I'm sure that the cable committee isn't spending $100,000 a year.
No, their budget's capped at 30,000 or 50,000?
It used to be about 25 or 30.
No, I
But-
think it's
But, you know,
30,000.
if you think about what you're doing on Article 3, I mean, the cable committee is a no-brainer. I mean, $100,000 a year, and there's no way that they're spending that kind of money. Or will spend that
Well, we
kind of
cut,
money.
we actually
so it-
adjusted the fee that collects it. We lowered the fee that that's
Yeah, it
charged to
came in
the.
about $100,000.
No, it's less than that. It's much less than
I
that.
thought it came in right around 50,000
Yeah,
just to
I'm-
cover the budget.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, it is. Bill,
Franchise
I will get you the exact for it, but I'm
20
telling you,
cents.
it's definitely.
They did adjust that to.
I know they did.
To a budget number. Now,
Hang on.
people coming and going could change how much money is collected.
Yeah.
If you have more people on cable, then your money goes up. If you have less, then your money goes
I'm trying to
down.
find the revenue projection for it now. Let me
Well,
just 1 second.
the year before, you adjusted the franchise fee, and that didn't go into effect until the following year as far as being dedicated to the cable committee. And you had a revenue stream that year of almost $100,000. But bottom line is, there's a revenue stream there that you could recoup if you really wanted to.
Sure, so we'll increase the surcharge that the users of the cable use, which is a small tax. We lowered it down. I mean, that was the argument, I think it was the argument before, we're we're still paying, people are paying it, it's a tax, we're in control of it. We lowered it down because we felt it was
Well,
the
you
right
always
thing to
had
do.
that option to do that, whether we were going in a general fund or
Yeah,
anyplace
yeah, no,
else.
we did, you did.
The bottom, okay.
Yeah, I don't have access to the actual, I'll get that for you, let me know what it is.
Yeah, why not?
I'm pretty sure it's at $50,000.
Yeah, that number just doesn't ring a bell with me at all.
I'm pretty sure it is.
And you know I was interested. in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
I-
have two things.
Please.
also.
Mr. York.
One is, for everybody that's watching on cable, the school board's budget is on our website. So if people want to access the school board superintendent's budget, it is, as it's been presented today, on the website. And secondly, do you guys have a date of when you're actually going to be voting to accept the town budget, so that while Brian is sitting out there, I can actually try to make sure that he's here, since he's listened to many of the arguments that you guys have had?
We do not. What I can share with you now is we have our meeting on 12/12 and then 2 subsequent meetings the following week. A lot's dependent upon when the warrant articles, when the,
Well, he doesn't have to be here for the warrant articles. It's if they have any final changes to the operating budget and the personnel administration piece.
correct, and
Those
the
are
insurance
people-
as well.
Yeah, those,
So if we just have a general idea of when you guys may have some voting stuff on the town side.
I
so
would
that-
think that has to be the week before Christmas.
we can vote on that whenever they give it to us.
That December,
Yeah, like I said, we're gonna make adjustments to administration and insurance on the 9th, so we'll probably ask for the 12th to have it come up as an item.
Okay.
As
So
far
you're
as
gonna vote
files
same
and
day?
warrants, it'll be a while.
Right.
I think for personal administration and insurance, I know generally as a policy we haven't, but we've already reviewed these.
Yeah, well, those are just flow-throughs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other thing, John, and should have mentioned it when they were here. The finance report that Frank puts out, is he putting it out, or?
Not yet.
Okay.
That was
He's-
requested.
Yeah,
He's given a spreadsheet in October and for September, and for October, he gave us a quick, blurb and stuff.
Okay.
It didn't really say much, I mean, in the sense that he has a little different style of how he's looking at that. And, his opinion is on it, is that it really doesn't make sense to start dissecting it till January, maybe February, which I believe, we get from different departments, actual updates of what's going on. Steve used to take all that and put it in his report. We're now getting that from the various directors ourselves directly to the school board.
I guess you answered my question, but it really wasn't my right question. It was to see the actual expenditure reports themselves.
I thought he was sending those out.
He hadn't been until we asked for it, then we got a whole slew of them, which is fine, but,
You ought to be able to send out, we ought to be able to get that report every month.
Yeah.
And I'll bring that up. Michelle will add that to the school board.
And to be honest with
meeting
you-
for us, and we'll
Yeah.
bring it up, and yeah, we should be able to get, his big thing was, he's been getting his hands around a lot of things.
yeah.
Sending out a report of where expenditures are and stuff like that didn't seem to be right at the top of the list, since he had to get his hand around.
What he sent out, though, was, he broke out the various pieces like we're looking in the budget, I think, and quite frankly, that's not necessary for me. I'm happy with just a 57-page report and the object and the function summary.
And I will tell you, as you're going through the budget, I mean, the school board tried to do as best we could, and we could, stuff got put in that shouldn't have been put in, got put in twice.
Yeah, and
And we've tried to find a lot of that, and we know we haven't. Probably you guys will find some as we're going through. And positions that were part-time became full-time. That really threw off numbers, and we think we have most of those items found. So as you're going through the process, just for a simple reason that they sort of downshifted responsibilities in the sense that they made managers more responsible for inputting the data, which wasn't Steve's process. Steve sort of handled that as a closed process. And that's not the process that Frank and Brian are using now. So there was some chaos because the number kept fluctuating and we couldn't understand, based on what we were looking at, why numbers were moving, weren't where we thought they should be when we came in. And so we think it's pretty close, but I do know that Frank and Michelle are working hard daily on continuing to review and make
Yeah,
changes on
I
it.
think I told them all the ones that I spotted that were redundant. But again, as far as the report is concerned, if it's easy to just send out the big 57-page job and then break it up, that's fine with me.
Gotta be one PDF, you gotta be able to zip that out as a PDF.
Exactly.
We don't need it as 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, 10 reports, we just need.
I can't find them then.
You're talking about the function summary, right?
Yeah. This is one report, not as, okay.
You know, the budget report and the function and object code that you put out, that's fine.
Yeah, well,
Additional member input?
Just a clarification.
Please.
So, cable franchise fee, we get about $13,000 a quarter, which is running a little higher than we thought. It's about $52,000 we brought in from this year, which goes to the cable committee. So it's not $100,000. It's,
Okay.
we set the rate calculating about $50,000. Obviously, we're doing a little better than that. So, I'll get you some more details on it, though.
That's okay.
Public input?
Good evening, Jason Garrett, 11 Perry Court. I don't know if it was just my cable service, but Channel 22 was working, Channel 20 was working, but 21 wasn't. So that's why I came down, to see if there was an issue. It says it's broadcasting here, but it wasn't on at home, so it was interesting. But I'm glad I'm here because I got input. Mr. Brunel, how much do you think catch basins cost each?
No, so I did a quick dirty math, right? So, and it's a dirty math.
Really dirty.
We budget, well, sorry, I was trying to be on the ball here, but we budgeted for catch basin cleanouts, which also includes some markings and TPS stuff, 22.5. We have 110 is what I think the number is that we have catch basins or whatever. So I just did the math, and I think the math is probably wrong.
Well, yeah, I got 110 on my property, and they were $37.50 each.
And the number I have here, well, it says an annual cleaning of 110. That's what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
yeah, mine were $37.50, so I'll give you a vendor name.
Jason, I was wrong. Thank you.
No, I understand.
Thank
I'm
you for
just trying
pointing
to-
it out. I was wrong.
I'm trying to save the town some money.
No.
It's a third
My
of it.
calculation was incorrect.
No, but at $100 each.
I will get this committee the exact cost of the catch basin repair, so
Thank
that
you.
we're not questioning this. I was incorrect in my quick math.
Okay, I'm still saying that I can get them done for $37.50. If you'd like that information, I'll pass it along.
Please feel free to pass it on to Mr. Pinciero.
Thank you. A good example tonight of allowing a part-time position to enter into the budget, because they always end up full-time. And that's how you do it without having to go to the vote. You bring in a part-time position, and they find a way to make them full-time. It happens all the time. They don't go the other way. They always go
That's
to...
not true.
Actually, they do.
That is a false statement.
Okay. Thanks, John. Predominantly, they don't.
Still a false statement.
Yeah. The other thing is raises put into the budget, I find to be extremely unfair to those that are the day-to-day, the teachers here. So we're going to give administrators and folks that make a whole lot more than the teachers raises. We're going to give them a pool of money to get raises. And we rely on folks in town to approve raises for the people that are actually in front of our kids every day. I find that as unfair as it gets. And I understand why then teachers get pissed off, because those are the decisions that are made, not necessarily in this room, but it is your budget. So the school board chose to do that, but I hope that this board understands that that is absolutely, absolutely not fair. If teachers don't get raises, no one should either. Or they should go on a warrant article themselves, so people can then decide if they should do that. There's a Supreme Court ruling in this state that applies to warrant articles and law in general. And it's called plain language. In other words, you don't read into it. The plain language, the words on the paper, right, is what you use to determine the meaning. There was warrant articles in this town in 2003 and 2004 regarding part-time to full-time, additional hours, additional programs. The people of this town expressed their position. It hasn't changed. You take oaths to the people of this town. That is, in my opinion, part of that. They spoke. They said, this is the direction we want our elected folks to go in. And they, when they elect you, hope that you will abide by those things. If you choose to ignore them, that destroys the entire fabric of that relationship. Now, a person asked last year at Candidates Night if those running would abide by those warrant articles, and it was in the affirmative, all the way around. I don't think there was one person that didn't admit to that or subscribe to that. So I hope that this board understands that, especially the new people. But that's what this town voted on. Be it advisory or not. It's a smack in the face to the voters of this town to pick and choose what you'll follow and not follow. And I'm speaking to you guys because it is your budget. The boards are bringing you their hopes, but it's your budget. And then finally, I hear it I hear it on the town side, and I hear it at the school board side, but again, I have to tell you guys, because it's your budget, I really don't care that some people who are, they're paying co-pays of maybe $5 and it's going to $20. Mine was $70 today. I was dropped from my wife's insurance. Now I got to go get my own through my company, which now increases my overall. I don't get to say, it's unfair, folks. It's unfair to my employer. You have to pay me more now. It doesn't work that way. But it's an expectation that the folks that work in government, well, it's not fair for them. We can't expect that of them. Yet it's expected of all of us. And if you guys don't feel that, if you guys don't have that in your own specific industries, step out a little bit and go talk to the vast majority of other people, because if your industry is not experiencing it, good on you. But read the newspaper. It's happening. It's 5 million people just lost their insurance, right? What are they going to do? But we have to give our government employees things that we don't even get. It's just wrong. So again, it's your budget. It's your responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Additional public input? Okay, hearing none. Motion to adjourn?
Mate.
Motion made by Mr. Pascucci, seconded by Mr. Peoples. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 45700. Thank you very much. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Make me
Thank
look
you.
at that.
Thank
you. You too.
I got it, I got a copy of it. I keep.
Will not meet next Tuesday?
Nope.
Third and fifth.
Me too.
No, we don't need to.
I see Zoom.
School,